Arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting a fool, this embarrassing, is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, can I describe it? Used to describe it as the young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fabulous Tuesday. I'm back hanging out with my boy after a couple week hiatus. Appreciate all the love. Things are going much better, so we'll cheers to that and hope they continue.
Cool.
But time for a little sports nonsense and whiskey. Pinky, how you doing, my guy?
Oh, buddy. I finally got my voice back from the weekend. So, had a good time at the Broncos game. And I had my son almost fight me. I mean, that was interesting. But
we'll hear that in a second because that should be good. Our repeat offender special guest, Robert, thank you for coming back. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I wasn't here when you were here last, so glad you're able to join again.
Happy to fill in. Happy to be here as always. Thank you for having me.
Love it.
Had so much fun last week. He wanted to come back.
I mean, we gotta be doing something, right?
Hey.
I guess, you know.
I love it. What can I say?
Glutton for punishment. Either way, it's all good.
Definitely.
So, all right. Let's just get this out of the way because now I want to know what happened. Like at the Broncos game, Browns-Broncos game. Junior's a big Browns fan for God knows what reason. But what led up to the incident itself, and then how did this incident unfold?
So he, as you know, likes to talk a lot of shit.
He does like to talk a lot of shit.
He likes to talk a lot of shit. He's kind of an instigator. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know where he gets it from. It's not from me.
He is, yeah. He doesn't let other people start it. He definitely likes to be the first one in.
And he likes that back and forth. And so we're there, and he's got a buddy with him, and they're talking the game, and we're kind of talking the ins and outs. I've got my wife in between us, and we're kind of taking it to him.
Sure.
We're being more physical than the Browns, and that led to the third quarter where DTR held the ball for way too long, ran, booted out of the pocket, and with a defender screaming at him like a missile, held the ball until the last second, and then got just smashed.
Lit up, yeah.
And Junior and I had different views of the play.
Oh, Junior thought it was a penalty. Junior wanted a flag.
Junior said, regardless, you hurt him, so it's a penalty. And I said, no, that's not how it works, man. Like, you can get hit hard in football, and if it's clean, it's clean. It's a hard hit. Like, that's what football is.
Well, especially once the quarterback leaves the pocket, man, you're a runner.
And again, we are literally the highest row in the whole place. It's happening in front of us in the north end zone.
Okay.
So it is on our side, but we're like way up high.
Right.
It looked to him, helmet to helmet. To me, I thought it was clean, like straight up to the chest, but he ran through him.
Right.
And he was coming like a heat-seeking missile. And the guy opened, like, he went up in the air like this, opening up his whole midsection. He just hit him. And so the referee in front of the play calls nothing. The guy standing right there in front of it called nothing. The guy from all the way across the field throws a flag. And I was a little upset about that. Junior took it as I was, like, cheering for the quarterback being hurt.
Okay.
And then he politely told me to eat shit. So,
yeah.
And then I had to, like, that moment of like, oh, are we gonna fight right now? And then it was like, no, I can't be that guy. So okay. I'm gonna just chill and be cool and let him be in his feelings for a little while, and he was, and then he got over it, and he watched the play later and was like, yeah, I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was. So,
oh, poor Junior. When those tickets were bought, he's watching this season unfold, going, yeah, I'm gonna go watch the Brownies. I'm gonna go watch them play and win in Denver. It's gonna be a good day. And then things quickly went south for the Browns, like usual, and he had to endure all of that.
Well, I mean, there was some definite questionable coaching on the Browns. Like, they were running the ball pretty well against us, but they wouldn't run on first down. They kept trying to throw on first down, which made no sense. You're getting 5 yards a carry, run it. So
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We'll talk more about it as we get into the NFL, but what the Browns have lost this year and where they're at is the exact opposite of what you would expect from the Browns.
Right.
So we might actually be witnessing a culture change finally. They still got a long way to go, unfortunately. They still got to get right. I don't know if they can ever do that. So
they still have Jimmy Haslam as the owner, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's always going to be a hill to climb for sure. Well, glad you guys ended up having fun, nonetheless, if you will.
We had a great time. We had a great time.
Anything else?
You've been gone for 2 weeks, man. What do you want to talk about? What's been sitting there like, man, I haven't been able to say this to Pinky and I really want to.
I mean, honestly, nothing really. I will say, and you kind of said it for me. I think the whole Jim Harbaugh and Michigan thing is wild. The fact that there's a 3-game suspension for what's being alleged took place, if you really have proof, like that's got to be a lot more than a 3-game suspension. Like that doesn't seem like the punishment and the crime are adding up. So that's super interesting to me as that continues to unfold and Michigan keeps winning. That makes everybody look silly. I am liking the in-season tournament for the NBA. I'm not liking the courts. I like that they make the courts differentiated compared to like a regular season in-season tournament game. So you really know that this game means just a little bit more. So I like the idea. I think they can clean it up a little bit. The Nuggets are already out, but they're dealing with some injuries and stuff. So we won't be seeing them play an extra game this year, which probably all said and done isn't terrible.
Yeah, I'm not too sad about that overall, but I'd rather them get healthy and play well down the stretch. So.
Absolutely. So there's that, but I like what I'm seeing with the in-season tournament. I think it does add a certain level of intensity to some of these games. I like hearing the players say, man, 500 G's is 500 G's. Like, I want that money.
Well,
so
I mean,
it is incentive enough. So that's good. That's
especially
good to hear.
The guys playing on league minimums, the guys,
right?
The rookie, second round draft picks out there playing. Those guys, 500 G's is a good amount of money for them.
Exactly. So, and the vets and the other guys understand that and are all about it. So I think it's cool. You're definitely not seeing as many guys sit to start this season as you have in years past. So that is nice. College football, we're going to talk about a bunch of that with the championship games starting this weekend. We'll hit on some NFL stuff. I mean, all in all, I don't have a whole lot that I want to go back and rehash. We'll kind of move forward and go from there. And then, Robert being here, obviously I finished Ahsoka. So there's things to discuss there. I don't know how we want to do this.
We'll be careful. Yeah.
So, nerd stuff at the end.
Okay. All right. I'm good with that. We'll do our sports stuff and then we'll geek out. So there's definitely stuff to discuss there, which I'm excited about. And we'll just kind of see what else we discussed tonight. I'm good with kind of wherever things may land.
Let me ask this before we get into college football. Did you catch Survivor Series War Games this weekend?
I did not. I didn't catch any of it. That's why I didn't go back and forth with you and Cody at all. I saw some of the conversation and I was like, oh, okay. But no, I was not able to see any of it.
So, Robert, any wrestling for you?
I'm not super exposed to it, so I don't have a lot of background there.
It's on Peacock if you have Peacock, just so you know.
I do. I've been thinking about it. I have a lot of list of other things to watch right now. My friends have tasked me with some good shows.
So I just recommend the pay-per-views.
Okay.
That are free on Peacock.
All right.
Those typically tend to be pretty good if you don't have the time to invest weekly.
Okay.
Like Caleb might.
All right.
I haven't been able to watch Raw in a minute here, actually, unfortunately. So I am a little bit out of the loop at this moment.
So the two main matches in the cage were pretty good. And I'll say the female match was way better than the guys. Like the female match, they did some things that were just insane.
Were they for belts or just cage matches? Kind of.
No, it's just cage match. Damage control versus pretty much everybody else.
It was like Becky Lynch and
Charlotte Flair,
those girls, huh?
Yeah. Against Damage Control, and then for the guys, it was like all the random top guys versus Judgment Day. So.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So that was interesting. AO Sky.
Okay.
I think I'm saying that right.
I think so.
She was up on the very top of the cage, had a chain, was able to connect the chain to a trash can because their helper was outside the cage, and she connected the trash can to the chain, lifted it all the way up, put the trash can over herself, and jumped off the cage into everybody. Like if you go watch any they're like, you got to watch that moment. And it's funny because they definitely choreographed it, right? Because all the ladies are literally standing there waiting to get hit from the trash can.
Still, it's so crazy. She went Oscar the Grouch on him, huh?
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure she probably got the worst of it because you can, trash can arm flying through the air. I mean, yeah.
Dang. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And then Charlotte did a backwards somersault off the top of the cage as well, which I'm totally like, I'm that fan that's like, I'm worried about their knees. Like, oh my God, don't hit the ground like that from that high. Like, I'm worried about injury.
Sure.
So, but yeah, they put on a pretty good show. Most of the matches were not good. The Miz versus Gunther. That was it wasn't that great. The New Girl versus Rhea Ripley, that was okay. And then Carlos Santos versus Dragon Lee, that was enjoyable. That was some good lucha libre stuff, right. Luchador stuff. That like they were flying all around and doing some really good stuff. So that was enjoyable. But the cage stuff, man, go back and just watch the replay of the cage matches. Those are pretty good.
Okay, yeah, I'll see what I can squeeze in there. But I mean, Survivor Series isn't one of the bigger ones, Robert. So it's not like you're necessarily missing one of their like
the top
really
events.
prime time event. Yeah.
All right.
So it's like their mid tier kind of pay per view event.
Right.
So they could be all right. They could be really good sometimes out of nowhere, and they could just be like awful.
I think they basically have
good to know.
Pay per view every other month.
Okay.
So
SummerSlam, Money in the Bank is usually pretty good. I mean, SummerSlam is like the
Royal Rumble is always my favorite.
And I was gonna say Royal Rumble. I mean, if you're gonna watch anything, SummerSlam and Royal Rumble for sure are the two go-tos, definitely.
And then of course WrestleMania.
Yeah, which I've heard of all about too. So like I'm familiar to it. I just haven't actually like committed to watch.
When the pay-per-view happens, it's on Peacock, it's free. It's totally cool to watch.
One of these days I'll be able to have people over again. And when that happens, Pinky always comes over to watch them and we hang out. You'll get an invite next time, and if you're available, you can come chill.
Sounds good.
We just drink some whiskey and watch it, talk some shit.
Sounds good
sometimes
to me.
with college basketball on too. Oh.
His own.
I saw that Sparty flag in the background.
Oh yeah. Nah, man.
Rock chalk, baby. Rock chalk. Go.
Sparty all day. Sparty on.
Spartans haven't been good in a couple years, so we're good. We're fine.
Maybe we'll meet in the tournament this March. We'll see.
You guys don't want that. You don't want that smoke.
We'll see. Izzo's hungry for another champion. So his quote at the beginning of the season really got me fired up. He's like, I'm tired of being done before March. So I'm like, let's go. Let's step it up and let's get it.
I mean, Izzo can take a team that's under 500 for the season and somehow sneak into the tournament because they wait in the Big Ten out of nowhere, and then they go to the Final Four. So
exactly. See,
if Sparty's in the tournament, I ain't playing with them. I don't want any part of that smoke, to be honest with you.
So it doesn't matter any bracket I fill out, I always got Sparty going because they're always a sleeper. They always like to surprise, and I stand by that every year.
Can't hate that. Can't hate that at all. I remember some way back in the day, some Mateen Cleese and some Mo Peterson, and I love watching those dudes ball.
I mean, back when Draymond was there playing, it was great. I mean, now he's a bit of an interesting character on the court, we'll say. But hey, to each their own.
That's probably a good way to put it. He's an interesting
Draymond
character.
Likes to play mind games and always takes it just over the line. Like that is what he consciously does it. Always takes it just across the line and then waits to see if or when issues will come from it. So,
exactly.
That's his thing. Good for him. I believe personally, he's always done it under control. But people think because you go just past the line, you're out of control. When really I see him doing it under control, going just past the line, kind of as always willing to see what boundary may exist in those situations.
I feel like that headlock was about 5 seconds too long, but
absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I did like the way he came like out of nowhere, like jumped in the air.
Yeah, it was in.
Somehow jumped in the air past Gobert and headlocked him as he was spinning behind him and landing.
Yep.
And then just started dragging. It's It was smooth.
And then after a while, he's like, dude, we're done. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. It's been 5 seconds. Let's go, man. Let's move on.
Steve Kerr's looking at you going, Draymond, let go.
Right? Like,
Draymond,
come on. Just let go.
Right. We're good then. We're good. So yeah, that's good stuff. Good
stuff. Nuggets mention real quick. They've had some struggles over the last their last road trip that they were on, but I just wanted to mention, man, last night, go on the road on a back-to-back, play the Clippers, have all of the Clippers playing, and you're without your top 3 players, and you actually win. Like, and not even did they win, they let 2 dudes. DeAndre Jordan came out of nowhere and did a double-double. Like, old man DeAndre still has something left. And then
what did he have, like 21 and 18 or something ridiculous?
Yeah, it was nuts. And then
Reggie went off for 30,
35, 5 rebounds, and 13 assists on 78% from the field.
Yeah, like, so that's all right.
Nasty.
All right.
So
early in the season, good win. I'm not too concerned with the team right now. They're getting rested. They're getting healthy. If they're playing subpar ball come All-Star break, I'll start getting concerned. But even then, not terribly.
So, well, we'll see. We'll talk about it some more as the season starts to roll some more. I think it sounds like Jamal is going to be back in a week or so that'll definitely help. And Nuggets will keep doing what they do, which is win at home. You play the Nuggets at home, they win. They're not great on the road.
Yeah, pretty good at that home thing, no doubt.
And Westbrook certainly didn't appreciate the talkback either.
What's that?
I said Westbrook didn't appreciate the talkback last night either.
Dude, I'm so over. Like, I like Westbrook. I actually think he's a real good dude. By all accounts, he's a great teammate. I love his game. I think he could be a lot better if he didn't have and this always comes off negatively, and I don't know how else to say it, but he's got a bit of a selfish game. He's not the best shooter, but he still shoots a lot. He'll yank rebounds from teammates instead of going out for outlet passes. It's little things where it's really him just trying to do too much, but it comes off as honestly kind of a bit of a selfish type of game, even though he's insanely great and a great teammate. But, like, dude, shut up. Like, seriously, shut up. If fans are yelling at you, Westbrook, and they're playing on your name, and you don't like that, and you think that's disrespectful because your name means a lot to you, then I would spend a goddamn 2 hours an evening after every game shooting the basketball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't like it, do something about it. Don't sit there and get angry that people are being disrespectful and not doing things that you enjoy. And dude, come on. Like, you're talking too much nonsense. And we're well versed in the subject. So you're not going to fool us into thinking it's something other than that.
I mean, honestly,
we all know. I will say, like, fans have definitely, with social media and they just have gotten to a point where they think they can say anything to anyone.
They sure do.
And I think there are quite a few times it crosses the line. So I'm not gonna kill the guy for it. But I don't know exactly what the fans said. But there are some instances like where the fans, like, they go too far. And sometimes you might go too far to the wrong person. So I know Shannon Sharp was talking about it today because, he had that interaction in Memphis where he ended up getting in an altercation there. So, it can happen. But I think we also need to get to a point where we understand that, these are people. Yes, they get paid a lot of money. Yes, they have their job. But ain't nobody coming into our job talking shit to us while we're trying to work, right?
No, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that shit. That's been part of their job since the beginning of the job existing. And I don't even want to know what dudes back in like the 50s and 60s, 70s even had to listen to.
Oh, I'm sure.
Shut your mouth. Like, it's part, you don't like it. Some people get too personal. Yeah, they do. They're going to. That's life, period. People are going to say things you don't want to hear the rest of your life. I am sorry you have a profession where you get to play a game, and part of that game is heckling. And not everybody does it in the most respectful way.
Nope.
Period.
It's a free game.
Yeah,
That's what heckling is.
I didn't get my job, and part of the job description was people may yell at you while doing said position.
Ugh.
Like, I didn't get that job. But I'll be damn sure if it ever comes up, and that's a possibility, I'll be okay with it because I'll enjoy the hell out of that job. Pretty sure they would not want to trade places with me and take some customer service phone calls with nobody yelling in their ear. I'm just saying, like,
it would be nice to not get yelled at while I'm doing my job. Just saying.
Yeah. And I don't want to hear people say, well, it's not part of the job description. Like, fans shouldn't do that, blah, blah. That has literally been fans since the dawn of sports existing. Since inception. So, sorry. Like, don't feel bad for this situation at all. Should some people do better and act better? Yep, they should. Do I hope other fans step in and make sure that those fans are quieted or, removed with the help of security or whatever? Yeah, I'm good with that too. But players need to just knock it off. Knock it off.
I like it. I like it. All right. College football?
Yeah.
And we won't talk about Jim Harbaugh.
No, we don't need to really rehash any Jim Harbaugh stuff.
We can talk Michigan.
Other than Michigan won, beat Ohio State for a third year in a row, fairly dominantly. Again, the game was close, but Michigan did have control for most of the game.
I know Ohio State had a chance to tie at the end, and the quarterback messed up.
He did. He did. So I don't want to make it sound like it was a blowout by any means, but Michigan definitely felt in control for most of that game, from my feeling and viewpoint. So it's interesting for two things. One, Ohio State does not have a quarterback. For the first time in a long time, they do not have a dude at quarterback.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, Michigan's dude that was supposed to be a Heisman dude and a top 5 pick and this and that, and JJ McCarthy, I said I didn't see it before the year started. I think he's a solid college quarterback. I'm not seeing next level star power. I'm not seeing an exceptional talent. So I haven't seen him do anything except for be a really great game manager for that team. If you want to relate it to something, think about a Greg McElroy, AJ McCarron, Alabama style guys who are putting up numbers on those teams, but when they went to the next level, flamed out, did nothing. That's how I see JJ McCarthy. But Michigan is just a team, like just top to bottom, left to right. Yeah, dude, everything, all three phases, they are a complete team. And they're going to be hard to beat if they make the college football playoffs. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But
they're super strong on both sides of the line. Offensive.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're just a really good team. And that people are going to be like, well, Jim Harbaugh was suspended for 3 games and they're still able to do all that. So, coaching doesn't really matter, this, that, and the other. To me, it just says that Harbaugh has done a really good job setting that program up to be successful. Like long-term, the people he's put in place for coordinator positions, assistant coaching positions, teaching positions, training positions, and the way he's built that team through recruiting to be as well-rounded as they are in all phases. That just says that team was ready to do what needed to be done when the time came, regardless of whether or not Harbaugh was going to be there to lead them. And that says a lot about his leadership, I think. So I think Michigan is set up really well going forward this coming weekend. They'll be playing Iowa for the Big Ten championship, and that should be a smoke fest, an utter disaster blowout. Iowa's going to get railroaded. Like, it's just going to be bad. Like, bad.
I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to be like, it's a slaughter. Turn off.
Look, everybody knows I'm a Nebraska fan. Like, I don't hide that. I make no secret about it.
Hey, I'm a Spartan fan, and I went
had
through
an opportunity. Yeah, like the fact that Nebraska had an opportunity to even win last week against Iowa. It amazes me that Iowa fans are still talking smack. So like it's not going to be good. They're going to go to the Sylvester J.C. Penney Bowl again for the 25th season in a row with their 9-3 record and one of the best defenses in the country, while their offense scores 10 points a game. Like, cool, Iowa. Good for you. Like, you haven't accomplished anything since I've been alive. You've been mediocre that entire time.
Yes.
You never won the Big Ten. I haven't seen you in the college football playoffs, national championship contention, nothing. So, like, yeah, Nebraska's awful right now. Cool. I feel more confident that Nebraska can get back to the highest of levels in college football than I do of Iowa ever being competitive within the top 5 to 6 teams in the country. So
it's a fair statement.
Get ready to get railroaded this weekend against Michigan. It's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly quickly, I believe. I'm talking like 21-28 within the first quarter and a half.
Points.
Huh?
Iowa just can't score points. Like, their offense is horrible.
No, well, what's funny is their quarterback is the former Michigan quarterback, McNamara. And then he got injured, so he's not playing anymore, and they brought in their backup. So, they were scoring an all-time low points with the former Michigan quarterback. So it doesn't matter who's quarterback. They're going to do the same things. So there's that. You've got the Big 12 championship, Texas, Oklahoma State. A lot on the line there. Now, let me go back. Michigan could lose to Iowa and still find themselves in the college football playoffs. There's definitely a path for that. A lot of scenarios could still do that. I don't see Michigan losing, though, so they're in. They're one of the 4 teams. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Texas, Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Texas wins. They have a legit argument for being one of the 4 teams in the college football playoff.
They're not even in the top 6 right now, though.
They're number 7. They're number 7. So
I don't see them leapfrogging Oregon.
I'll tell you how it happens after we get through all this, and I'll let you know exactly how they get in. And it's a crazy, wild scenario that is actually very feasible and would be a lot of fun to witness. So we'll get there. But they got to win, and then they have a legit argument for being one of the teams included. Oklahoma State has been insanely up and down all season. They could show up and play like one of the best teams in the country, or they could go out and lose to, our sisters of the poor. I don't understand it. They're just wildly inconsistent. Texas has been really good for the most part all year and consistent about it. So I don't see Texas losing this game, even though it's conference, anything can happen, all that good stuff. This isn't Oklahoma, so it's not the big rivalry game. Those jitter emotions from that and it being a championship game are not going to be there like they would otherwise. So I think Texas will be fine. You've got the ACC championship with Louisville and Florida State. This could be interesting. Now, Florida State did win last week with their backup quarterback after Travis Hunter went down. Travis Jordan. After he went down. Jordan Travis. Man, I'm off for 2 weeks. And I'm all sorts of over the place. Jordan Travis, isn't it?
Wow. Get it together, Caleb.
I'm sorry. Terrible. Terrible. He went down with injury. So, he's not going to be there. He was a Heisman favorite.
He was playing some good football.
He was playing some really good football. So their backup came in last week, got him a victory, but they weren't playing number 10 Louisville.
It was good. Close. It was
Louisville
close.
is good. I actually like Louisville to upset Florida State here. I just don't feel good about Florida State's backup quarterback. I think Louisville can come and bring some pressure. Big time game. Louisville has played pretty well all season, actually. Florida State has been kind of hit or miss and kind of getting by in a couple of these games.
I don't want to see Florida State in the playoffs with a backup quarterback. I just don't. I just think they're going to get mauled against the top teams, and it's just not going to be good for us to watch. So they're number 4 right now. I want to get them out of there. So, yeah, Louisville, kick that ass. Nobody wants to see them. Nobody wants to see Florida State in the playoffs right now with a backup quarterback.
No.
There you go. Florida State, I got you. They're out. Louisville will win. That pulls Florida State out of the runnings. They will no longer be in contention for the college football playoffs. Then you've got out west, the Pac-12 championship game, which is going to be a rematch from the regular season and one hell of a game, I do believe, which will be Washington and Oregon.
Oregon's going to take the cake.
I like where your head's at, Robert. Oregon almost won the first matchup. Washington sneaked it out. Now, I won't say either team lost that game.
It was a battle.
It was just a really good football game. And Washington happened to have the ball in the end. That's kind of what it came down to.
Oregon's hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. And Washington has not been playing the best football here as of recent. Penix has been playing below the hot start he had to the season, the Heisman frontrunner. Those weapons on offense don't seem to be as explosive the last couple of weeks for some reason. That defense has been okay, solid, but not great. Oregon, on the other hand, since their meeting, I believe has only gotten better. That defensive unit continues to shine. They play fast and aggressive. Bo Nix continues to show out and just be the most efficient game managing superstar quarterback you could ever want. And it's crazy because you hear game manager and you automatically think it's a bad thing.
You go ahead.
The way he game manages is a beautiful thing to watch if you really want to see a quarterback be a point guard.
Whatever he's like, if you've watched the last 4 weeks, go ahead and put it on his name. Heisman winner. He's winning the Heisman. It's happening.
I'm going to disagree, and we'll talk about that here once we're done talking about these playoff situations here. And I'll tell you why I disagree. But
man,
I don't hate that. I don't hate that call. But I like Oregon in this game. I do. I think they're kind of on the rise while Washington hasn't fallen off. I think they just kind of plateaued a little bit. And it's the wrong time to do that right now when Oregon's coming back and they want that sweet taste of victory and that bitter, taste of defeat out of their mouths. So I like Oregon to win. And then you've got the SEC championship game. Georgia, Bama. Bama coming off an insane win over Auburn over the weekend. I still don't understand, one, how the quarterback had that much time to just stand there and survey the entire field. And then two, how if you're not going to have any pressure, how he's able to find a guy from 35 yards away in the back of the end zone wide open. It's crazy. It's like, and Milroe isn't a bad quarterback, but he's not known as like the best passer in the country or anything. So it's not like he threw a dime that only his guy was going to catch. It was just bad defense, unfortunately. Guy lost him in the back of the end zone and didn't recover quick enough.
If Alabama wins, chaos ensues.
Well, so this is where it gets interesting, Pinky. I don't know if Alabama can beat Georgia.
And Georgia's going to contain.
Yeah. And in fact, as much as I don't want to say it, I think Georgia wins. But You're absolutely correct that if Alabama wins here, things get real interesting real quick. And this is why. As I mentioned before, Texas would have a right in. because they beat Alabama in the regular season. So if Alabama beats Georgia, Georgia has one loss, but they're not the SEC champion. It's going to be hard to put them in when you've got an undefeated Michigan, Alabama who beat them, Oregon out west, who's going to be the Pac-12 champion, and in that scenario would have a revenge win over Washington, which is currently in the top 4.
Right.
And then you'd have Texas. So if that's the situation, you would have Texas, Oregon, Michigan, Bama. Florida State's out because they lost to Louisville. And then you've got Georgia out because they're not the SEC champion. Now, I don't see that happening.
Dang.
Georgia's going to win. So then you take Georgia, you take Oregon, you take Michigan, and then do you take a one-loss Texas Big 12 champion? Do you take a one-loss Washington who lost in the Pac-12 to Oregon? Do you take a one-loss Florida State that didn't win the championship? Do you look at Ohio State? Who would get that 4th spot? Would it still be Texas getting in? Would they leapfrog still because Florida State's loss? It's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
Georgia's still going to win, though.
I actually like Oregon right now, personally. Georgia's defense isn't as good as it was last year by any means. They haven't seen a great offense all season. And Oregon's got a defense.
Oh.
Georgia doesn't quite have the offense. And Oregon's offense is Bo Nix is scary efficient.
And he would
Franklin's been awesome. The wide receiver for Oregon, Franklin, is awesome.
Yeah, but Bo Nix is going to be the Heisman, though. I would say if Oregon wins the Pac-12 and goes on, Bo Nix wins the Heisman. Period.
Agreed.
End of story. Full stop. There's just no other way. But it's true. I mean, if you really think about it, if Oregon wins and Georgia, again, we're gonna just say they win. As you mentioned, they're not gonna have the guts and glory to be able to stick it out to Oregon because Oregon is going to be so fired up.
Yeah. At this moment, if you're asking me to pick who I like for the national champion ahead of the championship conference games, I actually like Oregon as my favorite. Michigan would probably be
Michigan, so
Michigan would probably be second. I know you can't. Michigan would probably be second. Georgia would probably sit third. As far as my hierarchy of who's got their best chances. So as far as Heisman goes, I think Bo Nix is playing insanely well football, like insanely great football. I think it's absurd. It ain't Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is playing on a level possibly surpassing Joe Burrow's season. The only difference is LSU's team around him isn't as good overall, and so they've got a couple losses under their belt, and they're not in the national championship picture. But I think Jaden Daniels this season is by far and away playing the best football out of anyone in college. Bo Nix would be second.
I don't hate that at all, Caleb. I'm just saying Bo Nix is the betting favorite. Bo Nix is on a winning.
Oh, he's going to win right now. I'm not saying he's not deserving by any means. I'm just saying you go look at the numbers and the stats and everything. Jaden Daniels is far and away numbers are better. It's not just like a little bit better. They're a lot better.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have as good a team around him.
The numbers are pretty damn crazy. You're absolutely correct on that.
To the point where, honestly, I would not be mad if somebody looked at him and goes, I'd take him first overall.
Is he coming out?
He has to. Got to. His years is done. His eligibility is over.
I was looking to see if they had that on DraftKings, but I'm not finding it. The Heisman.
Oh, yeah.
It was Bo Nix was the leader for, who the betting odds were on.
Yeah, I mean, he'd have to have an insanely terrible game against Washington this weekend to not win it. So I would say if I had to bet and guess, Bo Nix would win. I think Jaden Daniels is the best player in college football this year.
They've got Bo Nix at minus 150 right now.
Yeah.
With Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. as finalists.
Okay.
Jaden Daniels is plus 120, so it's close. And LSU doesn't have another game though, right?
No, and they've got 3 losses, and one of them isn't to the number 4 team in the country in a close game, so that's gonna hurt you when it comes to these postseason awards.
Yeah, that's. And the last couple of weeks kind of took Penix out of it because he kind of plateaued, like you said, perfect analogy. And Bo Nix, like the last 3 weeks, has just been on fire. And Jaden Daniels has pretty much been playing he's been playing that level, but he didn't play defense.
I mean, he's got 800 more total yards than Bo Nix, and I think it's 10 more touchdowns and the same amount of interceptions. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
He's got 3,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, and that's not including his rushing. Right.
He's got 4,900 total yards or something like that.
Right. It's nasty.
So, he's playing really well. So, yeah, this weekend's going to get real interesting. But I think we'll see Michigan, Oregon, Georgia, and Texas. After it's all said and done, I think those are going to be the 4 teams in the college football playoffs.
If Texas gets in, that's going to be wild.
It will be, but I mean, when you think about it, the number 4 team's going to lose in Washington. Florida State loses, that pushes them back out.
Is Ewers back as well?
I don't know if he'll be back this weekend or not. But Arch looked pretty good last weekend.
He played last week.
I thought he did. Arch played in garbage time.
Arch got in 5 passes.
Yep.
So yeah, Ewers is playing. He's good. He's good to go.
So yeah, I just and the other thing you got to think about is some of the teams that they have ranked ahead of Texas won't be ranked ahead of them if Texas wins their conference championship and those teams don't. They'll just naturally. That's kind of the beauty of the way they have these polls set up and the championship committee choosing the Final 4 playoffs teams. They give themselves that wiggle room to say, well, right now we think this team's better, but if they don't win their championship game, they'll fall. So that's how Texas is going to squeeze their way out.
I think that goes a little bit to also the school and possible ratings. Texas brings in some ratings, so
they do.
If they can find a way to get them in at 4, I could see that happening.
Yeah, we'll see.
For sure.
We'll see how that goes.
All right. College football, we're good?
Good. Yeah, you got championship weekend, and then you've got the Heisman the following weekend, and then you've got the bowl games kicking up and getting going. So fun time for football starting right now.
Bowl games are still fun, but it's not.
I still watch all of them if I catch them and I'm able to. I'll still watch the Holiday Bowl, and the Ginseng
I'm more likely to
Bowl
watch hockey or NBA than I am to watch a bowl game for the most part.
I mean, hey, when 10 players or the entire teams are getting disqualified now, may as well. It makes for an entertaining evening.
That's true, no doubt.
So,
did not get over that. That was
wild. 10-minute majors to everybody on the ice. That was one of the best calls I've ever heard from an official, a ref, and whatever you want to call them. That's one of the best things I've ever heard. Everybody on the ice, 10-minute major.
Yep.
Get on out of here.
That needs to be that's a record or something for disqualifications.
For
this man
sure.
needs to get an award for this. Damn.
If they'd all ejected all of them, that would have been something. You know what? You guys are all out. Get out of here. I guess we should probably spend a moment. Cody brought it up. Did you see Cody's message to us about?
Yeah, a little chilly in the garage, not as comfortable, so came back down to the basement. It'll probably be that way until it warms up again.
Oh, Cody was mentioning that one of the players for the Blackhawks has been put on indefinite suspension.
It's for aggravated assault, wasn't it?
The rumor is he slept with Connor Bedard's mom.
Oh.
During the Mother's Day, week or travel or whatever it is. They do a thing with mothers, and then they do another one later in the season with dads, where I think the dads go on the road trip with them, I think. And that's the rumor out there, is that this guy's, the teammate of Connor may have had some fun with Connor's mom, and which that usually doesn't go over very well in most cases, for multiple reasons. But
damn.
Don't have a hot mom. That's
right.
More
right. I mean, you have a hot mom. There's things you got to worry about. I guess you could always be a loving son and just be excited that your mom had a good time. I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
Be supportive.
Yep.
I mean, at least it was with a teammate. It could have been a rival.
Right. Could have been
also a good point. Also a good point. That's things to think about here.
Can't be all bad.
Oh goodness! All right, Pinky. What else we got? We ready for NFL? What are we doing?
We're ready, buddy. We're ready. So, what was your thoughts of the weekend?
Fucking Lions.
Thursday's games were pretty bad overall. They were bad.
Yeah, they're not usually great, so it's not entirely.
I should say I was only hoping that the Packers-Lions game would be a good game, because the other two games I felt pretty confident were going to be exactly what happened, pretty much.
Yep.
So, that Lions-Packers game was a good game. It's what I've been expecting to see from the Packers, and they, for whatever reason, have been very up and down this year, very inconsistent. The Lions, I don't know quite what to think of them still. I think they're a really good team. I don't know if they're a great team.
I think they need to take the ball out of Jared Goff's hands a little bit. I think they need to have him run the football, manage the game a little bit more, take the shots when you need to, but do a little bit better job of managing the game. Because if they don't turn the ball over 3-4 times, they probably win that game.
Sure, and I don't disagree with you there with Jared Goff. I think one of the problems is they're kind of expecting the same thing from him as last year, with not as many true veteran weapons. That wide receiver core had DJ Shark on it last year.
I think they still had Marvin Jones, or they still have him now.
So there's some pieces they're missing. Say what you want about Swift and Jamal Williams, but they were veterans compared to what you're looking at now with Montgomery and the rookie and Gibbs. So there's some changeover in that locker room that, while the talent on the field might be a little bit better, that dynamic we talked about at the beginning of the season is still going to be something that they're going to have to deal with throughout the year. And will they be able to, while dealing with that change in dynamic, be able to still take that next step to one of those great elite teams? And I think that's what they're still trying to figure out. And let's be honest, at the same time, I'm also not that concerned about the loss, because I don't think Green Bay is a terrible team, for one. And two, it's the NFL. So even the great teams, for some reason, find ways every year to lose to a team that they should have no business losing to.
Absolutely.
Turnover is the great equalizer.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you're like, okay, like every team always has one of those, even the really good teams every year. Jared Goff hasn't had a game like that all year. So you could talk.
No. Last week, he threw 3 picks to the Bears.
Oh, yeah, the Bears game they should not have won that game, and they came out.
It was terrible.
Goff had a very terrible display against the Bears. That was abysmal.
You look at the interception. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember right, those Bears interceptions were not as much on him as they were this last week with the Packers.
Oh no, they were all on him.
Were they?
Oh yeah. He was the poster boy for the Monday trash show. Like that was bad.
So, I mean, I'm not that concerned personally, but 2 weeks is not great, especially given his past. It can scare you a little bit.
They're still 8-3. I'm not worried about the Lions. The Lions are going to win the division.
8-3. Yeah, I'll take it, but they shouldn't have fucking lost.
Yeah, that's tough, but yeah, I agree.
But moving on. Got Cowboys this Sunday coming. They're gonna win it. It'll be fine.
Cowboys got Jack Del Rio fired. Poor Jack. They were gonna get mopped up anyways, but then you get mopped up, and of course, you traded your 2 best defenders anyways.
I lost so much respect for Ron Rivera with that move, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought that man had a lot more integrity than that. He literally fired Jack Del Rio, acting like that's going to save his own ass.
Right. If you play a shitty team and they put up 45 on you, then fire them. Sure. The Cowboys typically put 30 to 40 on you anyways. Like whether Jack's coaching them or not.
Well, it doesn't help that you traded like half the defense away over the last 2 weeks before that as well. So It's not like you're giving him things to work with. So yeah, I lost a lot of respect for Rivera with that move. I thought that was a cheap, low blow.
Rivera's a dead man walking anyways.
Oh yeah, he is.
So to me, I'm like, no, I'm not going to fire the guy because I'm going to lose my job anyways. Yes. So. Because the new owners are going to want to pick their guy. That's just how it works.
I do believe if Washington can get their coaching situation right, they've got some potential to work with there going forward where they could be a pretty competitive team rather quickly.
I don't think you're wrong about that. Let's talk. I love that the NFL was hyping this up, and I know they couldn't flex it, but Dolphins Jets should have been flexed.
Oh yeah,
it should have been flexed. And I know because it was set up as like the first primetime Black Friday game.
Let's be honest, the NFL just should make that a one-time thing and never do it again. Like,
oh no, they're gonna do it. It's gonna happen.
I know they are, but they just shouldn't. They just shouldn't. You get Thanksgiving, you can do Saturday and Sunday if you want to. Just don't do Black Friday. Like, just leave it alone.
I guarantee you they're going to do 2 games on Black Friday next year.
They will. I'm sure you're right. I don't think it was very, very heavily watched for so many different reasons, and I don't think that's necessarily going to change, but they'll keep shoving the content down.
I don't know, man. I think if that was actually like – if Aaron Rodgers was still there, that game is like we're watching that game.
Yeah, of course we are. But I still don't think it's going to get a lot of views because of Black Friday being Black Friday. I just think it's a mistake for the NFL to do it.
Most of us dudes aren't out shopping on Black Friday. The wives are out shopping at 6 a.m. They're coming back about 1 or 2. We're chilling watching the game, man.
I'm working, so I don't know about y'all.
Half the country's working.
I was about to say, I'm working.
Yeah, not everybody has a day off. So between not having the day off and people wanting to do other things or still doing things for their holiday weekend because they sat all day around the TV the day before or whatever.
Christmas decorating.
And then you got all the college games that people really like. I'll be honest with you. Even if it's a Broncos game on Black Friday, I'm watching Nebraska over that. That's the tradition. It's been that way since I was born. They played on Black Friday. So there's certain things that I think the NFL is good with, and I think there's other things that they're not good with. I think this is one of those things where they should just take the L and move on. I know they won't. I don't like it. I think Friday and Saturday are for college football.
Yes.
Like, that's just what I think in that situation.
See, and I'll watch the NFL game over any college football game. So
we get NFL Sunday, Monday, and fucking Thursday. I like my college football.
This was a turd game, but
doesn't matter.
If they'd have given us something better, I'd have been all about it.
I get 2 days of college football. I don't need a 4th day of NFL. Sorry.
Whatever, Robert.
Hey, college football, in my opinion, is way more entertaining, but that's besides the point.
Not even close. Not even close. Most of the games are turds. For the occasional great game, like Oregon-Washington was a great game. LSU had a couple great games back and forth. There's been a couple. Texas-Oklahoma was a great game. I mean, there's been a couple this year, but the majority of them are turds.
This year was not a fantastic, like, oh my gosh, college football year. I mean, I turned it off halfway through because, well, Michigan State had their own thing going on. But, I mean, even the other stuff happening around, like, even with, like, CU and just the overall picture, there wasn't a lot of stories going on. Like, it was, okay, here's the usual year. We're moving on. Like, but anyway.
Yeah, the storylines that they tried to force down your throats to start the season didn't hold up the way they were hoping, and everything quickly kind of had to pivot, and they didn't have anything.
It was done. So,
let's see. What was interesting? I'm looking. There were so many just bad games.
So here's some stuff. Jags Texans was an interesting game because it was for would have been for first place. And if the Texans had won, we said at the beginning of the season would end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Right.
They're on pace to clinch that right now.
The problem is the Chiefs literally play only one team remaining that might be able to beat them, and that's Buffalo.
Right, and Baltimore is actually ahead of everybody right now. So
they're not.
Yeah, they technically
Chiefs are number 1. Chiefs are 1. Jags are 2. Baltimore's 3.
What are the Chiefs?
1. They're all 8-3.
No, isn't Baltimore 9-3 now?
I guess they're a half a game because they are 9-3. Yeah, they won Sunday night.
So okay. Baltimore is technically the number 1 seed.
Technically.
Well, I mean,
when the Chiefs win this weekend and Baltimore's on a bye, they haven't
played this weekend. They're a half game back. So Baltimore is the 1 seed, and everybody's chasing them
until this weekend, and then the Chiefs will be ahead of them again.
Okay, unless the Chiefs lose, and then they're still behind them. So
they're not losing to the Packers.
Look, say what you want, Peaky. I'm just saying, call what it actually is right now. The Chiefs are not the number 1 seed. They're not first in the AFC. They do have to win in order to be such. So it's not just like, give it to them. They've got some duds that they've had. They haven't looked great the last 3 or 4 weeks.
They look pretty average.
So they're finding ways to lose more so than they are to win. And that can come back to bite you if you keep playing that brand of football. Now, did they maybe finally figure out something with the way they're using Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco to then also allow Kelsey to open up and get some more touches? Maybe.
It's against the Raiders. I'm not taking any stock in that.
They don't seem to do things consistently once they find something that works other than Kelsey and Hill. And Hill's no longer there. So do they stay with what they found worked last week and build on that, or do they mix it all up again? I don't know. But you still got Kelsey, you still got Patrick Mahomes, and you still got, honestly, probably a top 5 defense in the league right now. They're playing really good ball.
That's an absolute fact.
So, Chiefs are still really scary. Baltimore, if they could figure out how to get out of their own way, like it feels like their offense is playing with their shoes tied together right now. Like they just can't figure out how to really start popping off with this new offense. Something just feels off. 2 left feet, whatever, analogy or metaphor, whatever you want to use. They just can't seem to click on all cylinders at the same time for a full game. They just can't. But their defense is one of the best they've had since I think I heard like 06, Ray Lewis 06. They're allowing like the fewest points per play since like 2009 in the NFL. Like defense is playing really good, just like the Chiefs. So that's a scary team as well. Jacksonville might be the most complete team in the AFC this year, given where everybody's at currently.
I've seen them put up enough turds that I'm not.
They have, but they might be the most complete team. Offensively and defensively, they're probably the most healthy team right now in the AFC. They're starting to play better ball over the last couple of weeks, so they might be able to build on some momentum in the right direction. But they're still unproven. They're still in that, as Pinky would say, you got to show me phase first. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there.
It's true, though. I mean,
yeah.
Every time I watch them, they've just been bad when I've watched them.
So there's that. But they got a crazy amount of talent. They could easily win it all. Or they could dud out in the first round. It's hard to say where we're at truly with Jacksonville right now. Buffalo could honestly be the best team in the AFC, but they've been decimated by injury on the defensive side of the ball, and they might have the worst luck. Like some of those Josh Allen turnovers, like I don't know if you could get more unlucky. Now, he is putting the ball in situations where those are going to be possibilities, if you will, so still kind of playing with fire a little bit. But man, Gabe Davis decides to just run straight and catch that pass in the end zone. They win. The ball doesn't go off a couple dudes' hands. They win. Couple guys don't fumble. They win. Like it's not just Josh Allen turning the ball over.
I've been watching Josh Allen the last couple of weeks. I thought about the perfect coach for him. Blast from the past. Bruce Arians. No risk it, no biscuit. Like he plays that dude's type of football.
No.
Bruce Arians is too old and hasn't like evolved with the game. But like, if this was 5-6 years ago, I think Bruce Arians would have been a perfect coach to have Josh Allen.
Yeah, but Bruce Arians never ran that style offense with a gunslinger. He ran that style offense with QBs who are known for taking care of the football. So he could go around going, no risk it, no biscuit. We're going to throw it deep and this and that and the other, because he knew his quarterbacks were going to protect the football. So he could say those things and it wasn't going to change much. You put a Brett Favre or a Josh Allen, somebody like that, in a Bruce Arians offense, and you get Jameis Winston. You get a 30-30 season kind of thing. Like, it's not going to be pretty, dude. That's not going to be good. So we'll see. But Bills could be the best team, and they might not even make the playoffs because of how bad their luck is. Like, that team is truly, that franchise is cursed. Straight up cursed. The Bengals are out. Joe Burrow's done. They're out. Bengals are done.
Boom. Taken to the cleaners.
They're out.
I think that's fine.
Steelers are literally getting super lucky by having they're playing these teams with backup quarterbacks.
I wasn't even going to talk about them. They're not a real contender.
They're making the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're not. I'm not worried about them. Broncos are more dangerous than Pittsburgh.
5 wins.
The Broncos are doing what we expected them to do when we started the season. Sean Payton is getting Russ to play game manager, efficient, top 15 quarterback. He's never going to have the 300-yard game, 4 touchdowns. Like, that's not happening. 180
they can roll. They can roll that out against certain teams, but that's not something they're going to do.
No, they can't. No, they can't, Pinky. No, those days are long gone. If you want to,
have 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Commanders. I mean, it's possible.
I mean, okay, if that's what, okay, sure, we can do it against the worst team in the league.
Teams, it's something that's possible. It's not out of the realm, but it's not something that's
doing it to win games. Is what I'm getting at. Like, sure. If you need Russ to do that and win the game, you're losing. Plain and simple.
Look at last
I still don't think Sean Payton is calling a very great offensive game plan and scheme. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think it's great, which is why I've said in the past, has the game maybe kind of started to pass him by. Not in like a bad way, just in a look at some of these other guys, what they're doing with the talent they're doing. And I think the Broncos have a lot more talent than, say, a Minnesota Vikings right now. And yet the Minnesota Vikings look a lot more explosive than the Broncos.
The Vikings have a solid team, though. The Broncos are still
I'd say they're almost on the same page. They just, like, they've got more speed at receiver.
Without Justin Jefferson, I would say the Broncos are more talented on offense.
I would disagree with that at all.
Once you put Justin Jefferson back on the Vikings, then I would say the Vikings are more talented. But without Justin Jefferson, I would say the Broncos are more talented on offense. And the Vikings, under O'Connell, look more explosive to me than the Broncos do. So there are still things that I'm seeing where I'm like, ugh. And here's my key takeaway. Is the defense playing better? Yes. Are they getting takeaways? Yes. Are they the ones that more so than not the cause of those turnovers? No, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the other teams make mistakes that the Broncos are then able to capitalize on.
I would disagree on that completely, because a lot of these are punch outs. A lot of these are getting three guys to the ball and ripping it out of their hands. It's been multiple times that's happened. So
There's been more interceptions than fumbles, and a majority of those. Nope, you're go back and look at them. You're wrong. This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. I agree with that point. But the fact that you're just saying that the defenders are the ones punching the ball out, swarming to the ball,
guys weren't taking care of the ball. Because guys weren't taking care of the ball. Ball's flailing out here. It's not tucked up with two hands. Patrick Mahomes, that interception he threw where it was off the dude's hands in stride. Like, there's too many of those happening where, yes, did they capitalize on the mistake? Good for you. That's what you should do if you're a good team. But you weren't necessarily the ones creating a majority of those by your play.
When you lead the league in takeaways, I think there's something to be said about it.
I'm not saying that the defense isn't playing better. I'm just saying if you have one less turnover per game the last 3 weeks, you may not win those 3 games.
Not saying that's not true, but so I disagree with you. The defense
capitalizing on somebody else's mistake rather than you forcing the mistake to occur. That's how I'm seeing it. And you can say it's a minute difference, or you don't think there's a difference at all. That's fine. To me, I think there's a huge difference, which concerns me going forward because their schedule is set up to go ahead and walk into the playoffs at this point, as far as I'm concerned. But once they get into the playoffs, I feel like it could turn into a very quick exit in an epic disaster fashion.
The Broncos are, if they walk into the playoffs, which again, that still means that the Chargers are going to have to charge it. Like, we're going to have to get probably both of those.
I think you don't have to beat the Chargers once. You can split that and win the rest of those games you have the next 4 weeks.
True.
Again, I'm still expecting us to lose the Lions games, which we both predicted earlier in the year. Even before the Lions were 8-3, we predicted the Lions would win that game.
Statistically speaking, the Broncos have always lost against the Lions, haven't they?
No. I've been to a lot of Lions wins for the Broncos. Even in the Super Bowl year, they won in Detroit.
Regardless, I'm not seeing a team that is like
it's
kind of like that year that Pittsburgh started 12-0 and everybody was saying it was a fake 12-0.
Right.
Like, that's what this 5-game win streak has felt like. It's nice, it's good, but the problem is it's not doing anything to sustain you long term in a building competitive manner.
It's a matchup dependent playoffs for the Broncos. I don't think if they played Buffalo again, I think Buffalo would run the football and beat that ass. Like, I don't see us beating Buffalo again if we played them again. Baltimore would probably win. That's probably a better matchup for us just because it's, they play defense, we play defense. I think that would be a decent matchup. Chiefs, I think we're not scared of the Chiefs now. At least the last couple times we've played them tough. So I think that would be at least an option, like something we could win. Miami again, like a lot of people are like, oh, it might be different this time. We're not going to lose by 50, but I still think Miami, the speed Miami has on the field will crush us, even in a rematch. We play the Steelers though. Now we're talking. We play the Jags, we play the Texans. I feel like those are matchups we would have some options, but it's all dependent on the matchup. Like we're not a team that we could just go in and say we could beat anybody. I agree with that, like completely.
Yeah, I'm even more concerned that we can't even be competitive with anybody. Like the turnover differential right now over these 5 games has been so largely in the Broncos' favor that I think it's skewing people's view of what this team actually is, because the offense has been average at best, sputtering often, a lot of 3 and outs or short drives, not taking advantage of field position.
No real movement with the ball.
Yeah, and then the defense, while has been good, again, it's been allowing guys to move the ball. They've just been taking advantage of some ill-advised plays from the other team.
They've taken the ball away, and then they've played pretty tough in the red zone. Those are their 2 things that they're doing pretty good.
So it's concerning. I'm not as ecstatic as the rest of Broncos country. I'm not upset. At this point, I've decided they don't care about being good for the next couple of years because they're not trying to build that draft stock, and that means we're running with Russell Wilson. And there's still a lot of holes on this team that need to be filled through free agency and the draft. Can we be competitive next year more so than we are this year? Yeah. Could we second round playoffs? Maybe backdoor sneak in, possibly AFC Championship game? Maybe. Do I see the Broncos being a true Super Bowl threat over the next 2 to 3 years? I don't. They'd have to make some major changes. And I don't see those major changes being able to happen given the nature of where the team is going to be winning at. So just, have to see how it plays out and go from there. But where you came to terms with them losing and getting a high draft pick, I've come to terms with, for lack of a better way of explaining it, the mediocrity that's going to be happening over the next couple of years. That's what I see where the Broncos are going to be. And I don't like using the word mediocrity necessarily because I think they can make the playoffs. I think they could be dangerous in a couple of games. I just don't see them as that upper echelon that can truly compete for a championship. That's all.
I disagree with a lot of that, but I do know that they are going to need to find a quarterback that can run Peyton's system so that they don't have to play it as safe. Because that is what is happening right now. They're playing it safe. They're not doing a lot of deep shots. They're not putting the ball at risk. Russ is doing 1-2, run the ball. Russ is checking in to run plays. We're running the ball a lot. We're running the ball really well right now.
It was like 5 yards a clip against Cleveland.
Right, which is the number 1 defense in the league until they played us.
Yeah, but you couldn't capitalize on that. So where's the disconnect?
They'll put up 27 points on the number 1 defense. So I mean, I don't sit. Last year we were scoring 16. We scored 27 on the number 1 defense. I'm going to take that as a win.
Okay. He does have that. I will agree with that.
I'm not going to be mad about that. I'm just going to say again, did it feel like it was a dominant 27 points? Did you feel like, damn, they just hung 27 on Cleveland? Or were you like, oh, they hung 27 on Cleveland?
I was shocked at how efficient the offense was against Cleveland when we weren't. I mean, we only threw the ball like 20 times in the game. I think
we got lucky and were able to take advantage of some really insanely good field position all game because Cleveland's offense was trash.
We had some great field position, absolutely, which goes back
to sit there and be like, damn, that offense looked really good. That, again, not what I saw. I saw an offense that took advantage of other people's mistakes.
The offense is better. I still think we need a quarterback that can run it more efficiently. that's going to come down to finding that guy.
And Clayton, here's the deal. Honestly, bud, Russ is not cooking. I know people keep trying to put that out there. The numbers he's putting up, the stat lines he's putting up, do not say cooking. They say, I'm doing my job at a very good pace, but I'm not doing anything above and beyond that. I'm not going to be the reason we lose or win games.
Currently,
the team will win as a whole. That's what's happening with Russ right now.
He is one of the most efficient at the moment. He is the top quarterback in the red zone at the moment. That is a fact.
It is. And I said that. I said all of those things.
Again, I know what you're seeing out there. There's a lot of safe. There's a couple plays running down. I like to watch Tim Jenkins, his breakdown of Russ after the game. And there was 2 plays back to back where literally Judy and Sutton are literally on like a 15-yard curl. And he can just rip it to either one of them, both plays back to back, and yet he checks it down to the running back. So there's still plays out there that he's missing. He can play better than what he is. Will he? I don't know. The Broncos are going to have to find their quarterback that Sean Payton can groom to take over after the next 2 years. That's what's going to happen. How they do that, I don't know. I don't know if that's like trading for Jaden Daniels. I just checked. He does have to come out this draft.
Right. But that's the kicker, Pinky, is first of all, I think his stock's going to rise to the point where he's not going to be available in the second round. The Broncos aren't going to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback.
They're going to have
a second-round pick on a quarterback would be too much. With what
Jaden Daniels is going in the first. He's going in the first.
So, it's I'm happy for Broncos. Look, guys, I'm a big Broncos fan. Like, I grew up a huge Broncos fan. I'm still a huge Broncos fan. I'm just trying to be realistic about my expectations of what this team is capable of. And I'm not seeing a team that's capable of making us all super excited and seeing a parade, So that's just where I'm at.
The first step is you got to get to the playoffs. The second step is you got to do it again and go further, and then we'll go from there. So let's get step 1 first. We'll see how that feels.
Okay.
I still think if there's a team that teams don't want to play right now, I think the Broncos are one of them.
I know a lot of people are saying that. I'm just not. I don't think other teams are actually feeling that. I think that's a media-driven thing right now because I think a lot of teams are going, dude, if we don't make all those mistakes, we win. If we make one less mistake, we win. So awesome. I don't think teams in the NFL are as scared of the Broncos as what the media has been trying to say over the last couple of weeks.
I think it'd be a difficult week for the other team, but it's definitely not like, oh my gosh, the Broncos are going to come in and show us up. It's a challenge because as Pinky said, you don't know what you're going to get. At this point, it's a mixed bag.
Sure.
At best.
Sure.
So when you go against the Broncos, yeah, you're going to have that mindset, but then you're also going to be kind of catching yourself backpedaling because you don't know what you're going to get, which has been too much of the Broncos' credit to capitalize on. As you said, with the field advantage and things like that, they've been capitalizing on the other mistakes, which has been a very key point for their wins these last few weeks, is taking those advantages.
Absolutely. And maybe that's where I should be looking at giving Sean Payton a little more credit. And I just haven't quite jumped over that fence yet. But the little details that are allowing them to win could very easily be attributed to the coaching.
We've watched a lot of bad football over the last 5 seasons. We went 9-7 the year after the Super Bowl. There was some bad stuff there, but for the most part, Gary Kubiak, good defense, Trevor Siemian, we won 9 games. Since then, Vance Joseph, the Fangio years, and then Hackett last year, we watched a lot of bad football. The last 5 seasons, the Broncos would have found a way to lose every one of those games the last 5 weeks.
Sure.
And only put up half of the amount of points if they were lucky.
Sure. I agree with you. I just, at this point, though, I'm not sitting here going, damn, they had some bad luck to start the season, but now they turn it around and we've got some serious championship aspirations. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
What I am saying is you guys should have lost those damn games and gotten a really nice draft pick, and we could have been not rebuilding. We could have been reloading and running. And you chose to go the other direction.
To lose, Caleb. You can't force them to lose.
No, but you can do things to, help make sure that your team gets to where it needs to be in the long run, and the team chose not to do any of those things. And I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it, and people laughed at me in the offseason and told me I was crazy and this, that, and the other, and a lot of it was from this network, other shows. Courtland Sutton is the best wide receiver on this team. Period. End of story.
I don't think that's an argument at the moment. So.
And the crazy thing about this is what you should be doing is doing everything you can at this point now to show that, so that you can try and get like a second or maybe a third round draft pick for him going into next season. Marvin Mims was a bust. That pick was a waste. You needed offensive line help. You needed defensive line help. You didn't get either. You went with that wide receiver. That hasn't panned out at all. And it should have, considering all the amount of injuries you had on the wide receiver depth chart. He should be doing something this year, because there's no excuses for him not to have been able to get the opportunities to do something. He just hasn't been able to get the opportunities because his play isn't such that he deserves it, right? So these are all things I'm constantly thinking about going, how excited do I really want to get about these 5 wins, considering they're not in a position where they can really truly be competitive?
He'd get more run if we weren't running 2 tight ends damn near 60% of the time.
I don't want to hear that bullshit, Pinky. If you're talented, you're on the field. No, if you're talented, you're on the field. And Sean Payton loves to run 3 wide receivers. So if he felt he had 3 wide receivers that were talented enough to be out there, he'd run them out there.
They can't run 3 wide receivers because they can't hold up in the blocking schemes.
Yeah, you can. You just chip with your running back and tight end more. There's plenty of ways to get around it, Pinky. They're just not doing it because they don't feel comfortable with the 3rd and 4th wide receiver. They'd rather run out what Sean Payton feels more comfortable with. They're playing Adam Troutman, bro. Sean Payton is playing Adam Troutman, who he drafted in New Orleans and could barely find the field in New Orleans to the point where he got released. So don't sit here and tell me Adam Troutman is getting run strictly because the Broncos are having trouble blocking. That's not what this is. He is getting run and pass options when he is playing. He's not doing that because they need help blocking. He's doing that because the coaching staff believes he's a bigger weapon on the field than the 3rd or 4th best wide receivers are. That's what's happening. They're limited right now a little bit by the talent they're able to put out there. The wide receiver depth hurts.
Completely.
If Tim Patrick was out, that would be a huge game changer right there as your number 3, right? I mean, there are things here that would change what we're looking at. They're just not the way it is. So now, could Marvin Mims still maybe do something and develop a little bit? Maybe. But I keep going back to all these dudes Sean Payton has had as wide receivers over the years in New Orleans. Sean Payton ran through Marvin Mims like kids on the playground run through recess tag. Like, it is ongoing and never ending. That's what Sean Payton does. He finds a dude to play for a season and moves on. Hopefully he has that one dude like he had with Michael Thomas or Jimmy Graham. And then everybody else is just a guy to him. Almost like what the Patriots did with their wide receivers. So we'll see. We'll see. But nothing about this 5-game win streak has got me super excited, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not. I'm trying to be realistic with my expectations.
Bro. You're just being you.
I'm not just being me. I am very much a championship or bust mentality.
Hold on.
That's what I am.
You are being you, because if Nebraska was on a 5-win streak, you would be sucking all over them, and you know it.
I wouldn't.
You absolutely would.
Not if they were 6 and 5. If they're 5-game win streak, no, Pinky, stop doing that.
You're giving them roses.
No.
You're giving them roses for barely losing to Iowa. Like,
no, I didn't. I was talking about how bad Iowa was. I said Nebraska had no business even being in that game. I wasn't giving Nebraska any roses.
You would, and that's the worst thing about
I wouldn't. No, that's what you keep saying, and it's just not simply true. When Nebraska starts sucking throughout the year, I talk shit about Nebraska and how bad they are. I do. And you can say whatever you want, but
Nebraska
that's the fact.
Went on a 5-game win streak, you'd be talking about how great they're going to be next season and all the positivity. You absolutely would.
Because I could do that in college football. Because there's something to build on. You bring in a new recruiting class. You build on the class you already had. The Broncos aren't doing any of that. The Broncos aren't trying to do something where you can build on this season into next season. So what would I be excited about? They're two very different scenarios, and you keep trying to compare college and pro, and they're not the same.
You finish the season on a good high note that does help carry over into next year.
No, it doesn't. That's absolutely Broncos shit, dude. No, it doesn't. Huh? It does not. Never in the NFL history has that proven to be true. Never.
So the Lions winning like 6 out of the last 7 last year didn't carry into this season to when they're actually a good fucking football team?
It doesn't have anything to do with they're a good team and they got better in the offseason with more talent? Like,
whoa. Hang on. No. One of the biggest mistake the Lions made in the offseason was letting Jamal Williams go to the flipping Saints. Sorry, but
for the locker room, yes. For the locker room, yes. For the talent on the field, no.
The numbers he put up last year, I mean, granted, he had no business putting up the numbers he did last year, but he had the talent and effort to be able, I think, to build into what the Lions became this year. They had a lot of things. And as Pinky mentioned earlier, if they can get I think it was Pinky, I might be mistaken there, but if you can get the ball out of Goff's hands more to someone like Jamal Williams, then there's a totally different unit. And you're not going to be making the same
I think they believed in Dan Campbell after last season's run that went into this season to where they're actually a really damn good team.
Yeah, he's changing a culture. That's not half the dudes weren't even on the team last year. Like, okay, Pinky, here's the deal. If you
didn't change over the roster that much, bro. So
no, it wasn't changed.
If you
terribly.
Truly believe that, then you have no business saying what you did in college doesn't have anything to do with what you do in the NFL. Like, you can't have both things. Like, it doesn't work. If you're going to say winning last season carries into this season, then you have to.
It helps. I don't think it's something that you can just discredit. You're like, it doesn't matter at all. I think it matters.
Right. But you're completely discrediting what you do in college going into the NFL.
I think it helps if you're really good in college, but then there's a lot of reasons that you might be really good in college that you don't make it in the NFL. I don't use that as something that you say like, oh, they were really great in college, so they should be really good in the NFL. And that just doesn't pan out that way, man.
I don't say that. Dude. No. No.
Oh, man.
No, we've been on this too long. Let's just move on.
No, I'm not doing this. You're not getting out of this. We're not. No. First of all, back up a moment. I am hopeful about Nebraska every year because there are reasons you can get optimistic about college that you cannot do the same thing with in the NFL. That's just plain fact. Secondly, once Nebraska starts being terrible, I start talking about them being terrible and what hope or no hope there is.
I know. So you haven't had any hope for them because they are terrible every season for the last 20 years. So you haven't had a 5-game win streak to really like have that moment, but I feel like you would.
Right. But again, you cannot compare those two because a 5-game win streak in college means a whole lot more and is a lot different depending on the situation than a 5-game win streak in the NFL. You have to admit, and it drives me bonkers that Broncos fans are sitting here saying this 5-game win streak means the Broncos are really good. Like, that's not what it means. What it does mean is you're putting yourself in a position to not have as great a draft pick, and you're not any more likely, in my mind, to win a championship this year than you were when the season started, which weren't great odds to begin with.
If you want to throw a good example in there, just look at the Buffs. They won 4-0, then sucked the rest of the season.
Yeah, that was bad.
That was terrible. That was
Deion's in some hot water right now.
But I mean, to that credit, I would say yes. A 5-game winning streak in college has a lot more substantial value than in NFL. Just
Would I talk about it differently? Yeah, I probably would. I'm not going to deny that. But they're two very different situations.
Yes, 5-game winning streaks means a lot more for rankings and things like that to come in the future of college football than a 5-game winning streak for NFL, because you could be on a 5-game winning streak and then still suck lard and not do anything with the rest of your season.
The Broncos can have this 5-game win streak and still miss the playoffs.
Yeah. I'm not defending that in any way, but a 5-game
I already said they'd make the playoffs. I think they have a cakewalk in now, but I'm saying they could have this 5-game win streak and still miss the playoffs.
What I would say is with this 5-game winning streak, Broncos country got a simulation of hope with, okay, now going forward, there's a bit of a future there where we're going to actually put up numbers and the games are going to be watchable again, because it is a good program being put together. But Caleb's saying you still have to build off of it. At some point in time, you're going to need that, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a solid team coming in at the end of the day, you're screwed.
This is what I'll say, Pinky. Do you feel like the Broncos have a legit, true chance right now after this 5th win to be a serious dark horse title contender?
No.
Okay, so then help me understand why this 5-game win streak is such a good thing.
Again, draft picks aside, because you can't, the Broncos could get a high draft pick and still fuck it up by drafting the wrong player. So again,
you're right. Absolutely correct. It is a crapshoot. I would just rather have better odds in that crapshoot than not. That's just how I'm playing it.
And I don't fault you for that. But to me, if you get on a 5-game winning streak, again, if they win 4 out of the next 6 games, whatever it is, and find a way to the playoffs or get close, I feel like they're building a program for the future. A lot of other things still got to happen. You got to draft well. You got to find some key free agents to play positions that you need help at. All of that is true. But I feel like the team will buy into what Sean Payton's selling.
Okay.
And I feel like that goes a long way. Okay?
So
if it make them title contenders, maybe not. But will they be a competitive team that could make the playoffs and maybe, just maybe, things roll their way, make some noise? Sure.
I'll give you what you're selling in the sense of building a culture, not necessarily the learn how to win thing, because they're pros and I don't believe in that shit when you're a pro. That's stuff you teach amateurs, high school, college and stuff. Learning how to win, part of tradition, coming in and being part of what it takes to do that. Once you're in the pros, I don't believe in that nonsense. I believe you either have a good culture or a bad culture. You don't have to learn how to win at that point, because pretty much everybody in the NFL came from winning cultures. That's part of the reason they're in the NFL. Most of those dudes are not used to losing. So I don't necessarily feel like the wins and losses mean as much as the culture itself and kind of the winning cures all ills, right? I mean, that's kind of the saying. So I'll give you to it in that sense. Here's the concern I have, and this is where I'll kind of just stop and leave it. They keep winning. It makes it a lot harder to change over this roster and move the guys you would need to or should move in order to get picks or build for the future to get even better. It's going to almost force you to be stuck and stay with the roster you have now to a certain extent that has a ceiling on it. Russ, Sutton, Judy, those kinds of
they're going to have some tough decisions to make, no doubt. That's what they're going to have to do, though. And again, they could make some tough decisions that don't work out. They can make some tough decisions that work out great. We don't know. We don't know what that's going to look like. All I know is teams that play well towards the end of the year and build up some positivity, usually, injuries aside, are usually decent teams the following year.
Fair enough.
We use that in our rankings. When we rank teams at the beginning, we start picking games. We use a lot of the information we have from the following season. Like the way you're describing it, we shouldn't do that at all.
I mean, we use it in the sense that how good were you last year and what did you do in the offseason to either make your team better or worse? We don't necessarily say, well, you won the last 4 games of the year on a hot streak. I'm going to rank you higher because of that. Semantics maybe, but I understand where you're coming from. let's end some NFL talk on this because I think this is interesting to me. Is anybody in the AFC better than the Eagles or the Niners?
No.
So really, that's to me, that's the two best teams in the NFL right now.
I don't see any AFC. The AFC team right now. I mean, the Eagles. The Chiefs were up on the Eagles at halftime, 17-7.
Well, the Chiefs probably actually beat them if MVS doesn't drop that ball, right? I mean, let's be honest. Well, but at the same time, they didn't beat them.
If the Eagles would have had time on the clock, but the Chiefs would have had the lead and most likely, with that defense, probably could have won the game there. Absolutely. I've seen the Chiefs long enough to know you give Andy Reid 2 weeks.
Sure.
You put the pressure on Mahomes. You're going to get his A game. Does the rest of the team put up their A game? We don't see it all the time right now with what the Chiefs wide receivers are doing right now. So that's an iffy thing. But could the Chiefs beat the Niners or the Eagles? I think they could.
Sure.
But if you line up roster to roster, I would probably still pick the Niners or the Eagles over any AFC team, period.
Yeah, I think fully healthy. I think I might actually take the Niners as well, especially with what they added to their D line with Chase Young and those offensive weapons all fully healthy and scary. Both teams scary.
Yeah, that's what we're waiting for. I mean, and the Niners and the Eagles play this weekend.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they play this weekend, man. We're getting that on. That's the Fox game of the week, which I'm excited that the Broncos game got flexed into the early game because all the early games are shit. That's why they flexed the Broncos and the Texans because that's actually a matchup. And then we just have literally, yeah, and then literally we're just going to watch the 49ers and the Eagles in that second window. So that's just the game. I mean, there's literally nothing. There are no the Sunday matchups. Maybe Chiefs and Packers you kind of care about. Maybe
I will be interested in that game for a lot of reasons. Packers could still sneak their way into the playoffs if they can find a way to win.
And then
the bottom of the NFC is weak.
Maybe, and this is the only reason this game is maybe interesting is Browns-Rams. If the Rams pull another win, man, they're putting themselves back into that playoff picture as well.
They are putting themselves in the wild card position. That is true. Some interesting things. There's a bye heavy week too, so for those fantasy people out there, you're feeling some heat depending on how you drafted.
Hopefully you've got a winning record right now.
Yeah, might have just chalked this week up to an already L at the very beginning of the season because of how you drafted and just knew it was going to hurt and move on. But it's definitely changes some of the matchups as well. So some things to look out for and see how it goes.
So we've already had 2 coaches fired, McDaniels and Frank Wright. Who else is on that hot seat?
So I don't think anybody else gets fired in season.
That'd be off season.
I can't imagine Staley keeping his job. I just can't see how that. I don't think he did himself any favors, but I actually don't think he's done a bad enough job to lose his job. I think there's been just the injuries and some of the unluckiness that just goes with the Chargers for whatever reason. I don't know if anybody will ever be able to overcome that at this point, but he's definitely on it for sure.
The fact that the saying can still go, the Chargers find a way to Charger, tells me, unfortunately, somebody's got to take the fall for that. And yeah, Staley's got to go. And the only reason why I think last year, Sean Payton wanted to coach the Chargers.
Yeah.
But the Chargers owners are so poor, they didn't have the money to dump Staley and pay Sean Payton at the same time.
Well, I don't know if it's because they're so poor or they're just so cheap.
A little bit of both. That's why they're renting. They don't own their stadium.
Could be. That's very true. Could be.
They're paying Stan Kroenke.
I know. Look. If there's one thing I think that the Lamar Jackson contract situation in the offseason taught me, is that while the NFL is far and away the most lucrative sports league in the world, well, actually, I don't know if that's true. The EPL and some of those others might be just as competitive.
I wasn't gonna say anything right.
Yeah, they might just be. They might be just as competitive. But let's be honest, the NFL is.
Oh, the NFL is up there. I'm not going to disagree with that.
It's known as the top dog, whether it is or not. There might be some other guys that could compete. But that being said, the Lamar Jackson situation taught me that, honestly, the NFL owners are some of the poorest owners in all of sports. And it's a wild scenario that you can have that rich of a league and that poor of ownership. And then it really starts to make more sense why the owners are constantly willing to do lockouts and things of that nature to keep the status quo in their favor.
A lot of these owners have owned these teams for so long.
Families own them.
The team is a lot of their net worth versus like Tepper, who was a hedge fund billionaire.
Yeah.
You know, the Titans owner, you know, FedEx, the McNair oil money. Like, there's certain owners that have, you know, some money, but
then you have certain owners, like, let's be honest, the Ford family with Detroit, and they don't spend any of it.
Right.
Which is another crazy thing that happens a lot with NFL owners. Some of the rich ones don't even spend their money because they know they're never going to lose money on the team because it's an NFL franchise. They just don't invest in the team to make it worth.
And you've got the revenue sharing, and you've got the other things that help with that situation. But there's things like Mark Davis is still paying Gruden, and now he's paying McDaniels. He's probably going to have to hire Pierce just because, like, he's going to need somebody who A, wants to coach the team, and B is okay doing it on the cheap.
Probably. You know? But that's not as much not being able to afford as much as it is just making some really bad business decisions that you've got to eat and then try to move on from. And maybe the best business decision is to go cheap for a little while. You know what I mean? So while Mark Davis is one of the poorer owners, that scenario also just is just really poor business decisions as much as it is not being able to afford the situations. Because you gave Gruden, didn't you give him like a 10-year, $100 million contract? Like, come on, like, dude.
Yeah. No. So when they fired him,
no.
When they fired him year 3, he's still got $70 million. He's going to get paid as long as he doesn't pick up another coaching job, and he's probably not getting another coaching job.
Like, did Mark Davis go to the baseball people and ask what you do after a baseball guy has been a Hall of Famer and is past his prime? And all the baseball guys went, you give him a $500 million 10-year deal so he can play until he's 42. Like, is that what Mark Davis did to get his coach? Like, I don't know, man. There's just the NFL more so than any league, and I've talked about this time and time again, is square peg, round hole, good old boys stuff.
Gruden was making good money at ESPN just working Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
So to get him out of the booth, you had to give him some money. You had to give him.
He's gonna make even more good money when he wins that lawsuit against the NFL for whatever he's gonna win it for. I'm sure he's gonna find something where he gets even more money, because the way that stuff was leaked, the NFL is eventually just gonna have to pay him to shut up.
Right.
Or there's gonna be a lot more people getting fired.
Right. Without a doubt. I do think McDermott is definitely on the hot seat.
I don't think he's on the hot seat. I think he would still have another year for sure, but I will say that there would be a fire under his seat if they don't make an AFC championship game this year somehow. Like, missing the playoffs would be real bad. And funny enough, I was looking at it, Pinky, just to double check. we had the Bills missing the playoffs this year.
Did we?
Yeah.
Well, we did plan on the Jets being the best in that division, plus Miami being really good too.
And then the Broncos being able to sneak in. I think we had the Broncos and Bills both finishing at like 10-7. But because of tiebreakers and whatnot, Broncos would have snuck in and the Bills would have been out or something like that. So, yeah, pretty crazy. McDermott, I could understand if he was let go because I think he's done enough through his own decisions over the last couple of years in big games with poor clock management, some bad coaching decisions that, the funny ball didn't bounce his way, unfortunately, where you could justify it. I just think he's got at least another year, regardless of how this season goes.
I think at this point, in the way that the NFL has changed, when you've got a guy who can be an elite quarterback, you need a head coach that's an offensive guy, and they can be on the same page. They can be simpatico. Like, I think as time goes, we're really going to get the, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, as great as they are. Are they as great if they're not together?
No, but that's the nature of sports.
It is.
Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, Kobe Bryant, Shaq.
There's not many Hall of Fame quarterbacks
Brady,
that didn't
Belichick,
have a great coach.
Montana.
Walsh, Montana. You've got
Shula Marino, Shanahan, Elway. It just kind of is the nature of how it happens.
Which was the last 4 years of Elway. So if he had Shanahan the whole time, we're probably having a whole different conversation. But
you know how I feel about offense. I've made it very clear how I feel about offense over defense. Elite versus elite, offense should always win. I don't think defense wins championships.
Well, here's the other point I was going to make on that, Caleb.
Go ahead.
When the head coach is the offensive guy and him and the quarterback are tied together, it doesn't matter who the OC is. Because what happens when you have a defensive coach with a good OC, that OC gets hired and gets a job elsewhere.
You are right. And that was where I was going to go with this. So I fully agree with you in that scenario, and I think that's a great point. What I will say, though, is I wanted DeMeco Ryan as the Broncos head coach. I loved DeMeco Ryan for many reasons, but one of them is the way he ran his defense was like an offense. He was aggressive and attacked rather than reacting to. He forced the other team to do something. And if they got burned, they got burned. But he was still going to make you do something to counter what he was doing rather than him trying to counter what you were doing.
Let's be honest.
Well, hang on. Where I'm going with this is he has kind of an offensive mentality as a defensive guy. So if you can have those types of defensive guys as your head coach, they'll make sure that the offense and whoever they put in power for that is going to have that same mentality. So it becomes part of that culture within the team. So if you do lose the offensive coordinator like you were just talking about, which I think Detroit's about to happen with Ben Johnson.
Absolutely.
You built a culture in the sense of how you want that offense to be, and you should be able to replace and continue to move forward, kind of like Shanahan's been able to do, McVay's. Shanahan's lost a lot of guys and been able to replace them and keep going. Now, he is an offensive guy, so that example doesn't quite hold the same
He calls the play.
Right. So, I understand how that's not necessarily the best example, but he's such a good head coach that he continues to put talent in positions to excel.
Absolutely.
And I think DeMeco Ryan is that same type of personality. And a Dan Campbell's not calling the plays.
No.
He's an offensive guy because he was a tight end, right? So he's not necessarily a defensive head coach. But I wouldn't say he's necessarily an offensive head coach, but he's an aggressive mentality.
He's like Jim Harbaugh John and Mike Tomlin. They run the game.
Exactly.
They're the
those are two great examples. Harbaugh and Tomlin are both aggressive personalities when it comes to their culture and the way they want their teams to play and the game plans to be called. They're not conservative for the most part. So if you can have that mentality from your head coach, it doesn't matter if he's offensive or defensive. That's where I'm kind of going with that.
Right. I just think when you have that, and again, when you have the elite quarterback, I think that's when it really helps to have the offensive coach. I do like DeMeco a lot. I know me and you talked about it. I think if he wanted to be the Broncos head coach, he would have been. I think he would. I think he wanted to go coach Houston because Houston was the team that drafted him. He's got a lot of fun there.
I think he gave a really good interview, and I think there was a possibility, but I don't think the Penner Walton, however you want to say it, I don't think that ownership was going to take a chance on a first-year head coach. I think is what it came down to. They wanted somebody to right the ship. Sean Payton was going to right the ship, create at least a culture, whether it was a championship culture, I don't know, but would have been a winning culture. Yeah, and that's a big deal to get that back in the building. So
I'm happy for DeMeco, though. He's in a good situation. He's got a really awesome quarterback. They're playing.
But that's the other thing. Like, if you were going to go DeMeco, in my opinion, there was more moves that had to be made. You couldn't keep the list was long of what should have happened in order for those moves to be made, and I don't think they wanted to do all of those things either. So, see where it goes.
Robert, what are your thoughts on a coach who might be on the hot seat?
So I don't really have thoughts about the hot seat right now. The one that I'm really focused on and really trying to watch is Belichick, because it sounds like he's going to be moving to the Commanders, which I am really excited to see if that really pans out. Because I've always been a Kirk Cousins fan. So having followed him from Washington, there's always been that
Michigan State to Washington.
There's always been that little bit of respect for Washington, and having lived there for a little while and getting to experience that culture is definitely different. So I think
we can call them the Redskins on this program. We're okay with that.
Because I was gonna say, for me, it's always been the Redskins. So I really want them to come back and really have a strong program and really, in a sense, give it to the people. They had a great program going that was just torpedoed to all hell. And it was a shame, because I was really looking forward to seeing where they went, because I thought they were going to be one of the next big.
Yeah, I mean, the culture they had in Washington before Thou Shall Who Not Be Named bought the team was all-time NFL.
Exactly.
They were, and that's what's crazy, is there's a whole generation, or maybe even two generations out there now that think Washington is just a bad franchise.
Exactly.
A historically bad franchise.
And that's
they're the opposite of that.
Exactly. And that's what kills me is, I mean, you've got something where, okay, like if you flip the tables real quick, again, the Lions, 0-16, worst program in history, one of the worst NFL franchises ever.
Absolutely.
Now tables have turned, and now we're looking at a whole new era of NFL coming with what has transpired in just 5 years alone. And that's where I'm excited is, okay, like Brady's gone. Like, great. He was a great football player, but I'm tired of it. Let's see what other talent can come in and actually make a show. And with Belichick moving to the Commanders and finally getting out from the wing of New England, I really think there's going to be a better, I don't want to say better, but a great story to see, and see how Belichick really advances into the future with that.
Here's the problem with that, in my opinion. And I think Caleb's mentioned it with Belichick. Maybe he hasn't. The game has seemed to pass him by. Or
passed him by because there's nobody coming to New England anymore.
Or the big thing about it is I don't mind him still being a head coach. I don't want him being the guy buying the groceries.
That's where it's at. That's what I said, Pinky, is I don't know if the game's passed him by as a coach, because his defenses are still so good, even with not very great talent per se. I think he's a terrible, terrible, terrible talent evaluator. I think if he could get a really good talent evaluator to put the chess pieces on the board for him, and then you let Belichick move those chess pieces, you may still see a really, really good head coach. And him in Washington with that new ownership group, and they put a good GM down there with Belichick and the talent they already have, that could get interesting.
The problem I have is I think Belichick would still be the guy that says, I need to draft this guy because he does XYZ that I need. And it just doesn't work out. I mean, with Tom Brady.
If you're the GM, you say, Coach, I hear you, but we're going to go with this guy for X, Y, and Z reasons. And we have so much confidence in you as being this super intelligent football mind that we know you'll be able to get this guy to do what you need him to. And that's what a really good GM would do. You know what I mean? And then ownership would step in and say, hey, Bill, look, we brought you here because we want you to be our head football coach. But that's all we want you to do. And if you don't want to do that anymore, you can go move on. But what we want from you is your football genius on the field. That's all we need you to do. Let us worry about everything else now. You can ride off into the sunset now as just being a really good football coach and showing everybody that that's what you were.
Mm-hmm.
And he either accepts that pitch and it works out. I think that would work out marvelously for Washington. Or he doesn't, and he maybe parts ways with, Robert Kraft in the offseason, or that third door sitting over there, which I've started to think over the last couple of weeks, is he went and played some 3D chess this season, knowing he didn't have a good team, knowing he didn't really like Mac Jones anymore, and he's going to go get his QB of his choosing in Caleb Williams or Drake May or Bo Nix or whoever else he wants, and get the quarterback that he wants, not just one that's still on the board, and then show everybody he's still really good at football or fail doing it.
Aren't they 2 right now?
Yeah. And let's be honest.
So they just lost to the Giants.
If things stay the way they are, Chicago is moving out of that top spot.
No, they're not.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, they're not.
Hell yeah.
No, they're not. They had Justin Fields last night, and he still only scored 12 points. They're going to reset that money, bro. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do.
So here's what I'll say.
It's the right thing to do.
I think it would be the right thing to do. The problem is that that's the right thing to do if you're going to get a whole new coaching staff. And I have this odd feeling, man, this really odd feeling that Chicago's going to keep their coaching staff and their quarterback in place, which I think would be a terrible decision, but I think they're going to. I really do. That's why I didn't say Eberflus was on the hot seat.
I don't think either of those things happen.
Ooh.
I think they get a new coach. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. They're going to reset their money, and they're going to be moving forward.
They have to. I mean, that would be the smart move.
The most logical thing to do.
Yes. I just don't think that's what they're going to do for some reason. I don't know exactly why I feel that way. I feel like that franchise thinks they're closer to being really good than they actually are. And I feel like they think that's because of some injuries and bad luck. So they're going to let them have another year, and it's going to ruin them.
Yeah,
but you're right. They should reset everything. That's what they should do.
There's no way Ryan Poles is going to not take Caleb Williams.
Oh, I think he's a terrible GM, and I think you're about to watch him make some really bad mistakes.
I can't see it happening. I just can't. He can't.
He could have done things this season to make them actually good, and he chose not to do any of those things. So, I mean,
he does have a point.
We'll see. But if Chicago does something really stupid, which historically speaking they're kind of known to do, Belichick would get the quarterback of his choosing.
No. Belichick would so what is stupid? The Bears trading out of the pick? Is that the stupid move?
No, the stupid move would be staying at that pick and taking what I believe they would do is stay at that pick and take somebody other than a quarterback at 1, because then they'd also have like pick 5 to get whoever else they wanted.
There's no way they're doing that either.
I don't think there's anybody that's willing to spend what it would take to move up at this point. I think that's the kicker, is if Chicago doesn't want to reset, who's really out there that wants to reset that badly where they'd spend what it would take to move up to 1? I don't think there's a team out there that would do it.
I think there's teams that would give up. They would give up some stuff to get Caleb Williams. Not that that's worked out a lot for people in the past, as we've talked about, but I still think there'd be a team desperate enough to do that because of the hype around Caleb Williams. Which is why I don't see the Bears not taking him.
Look, if the Bears were really smart, and you know how much this pains me to say it, but they would trade Justin Fields, they would get a whole new coaching staff, and they would take whoever they believe is the best prospect at 1.
And I think all of that's going to happen.
We'll see. Cody, Harrison Jr. at 1. If the Bears believed in their coaching staff and they believed in Justin Fields, yes. I think Harrison 1 would not be crazy at all. I think it would actually be an insanely, amazingly smart move for them to do, because you pair Harrison with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. Their running backs are not bad by committee. You add to the offensive line, you could be off and running, and that could be a scary offense. They're nowhere close to being in that position, though. As far as Caleb Williams being a bust, I am just mind blown by the amount of people saying this now, because the dude showed some emotion this year, and because some story that never got verified came out talking about him saying he wants ownership stake in whatever team drafts him. Like, look, nobody ever verified that came from him or his dad, for that matter. It was a stupid story to begin with. And now the kid shows some emotion after losing and not having the season he wanted to, still putting up really good numbers. People are like, well, he's losing to the good teams. Yeah, because his team isn't good. So, of course, his team's going to lose to the bad teams.
Cody, I'm going to tell you this right now, my man. Caleb Williams gets drafted by the wrong team. He could absolutely be a bust. True. But the talent that guy has, his ability to throw the ball from different platforms, different angles, his ability to move, his ability to run, he's next level, man. He does need to get in. All quarterbacks need to get in the right offense.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't go to Andy Reid, and we're not talking about Patrick Mahomes.
We are not. We're not talking about the greatness of Mahomes if Andy Reid is not coaching him. I am without a doubt saying that. You put Patrick Mahomes on any other team, he is not the same player. Could he still be a really good quarterback? Sure. Is he like Hall of Fame being put in that conversation of he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks of all time? No, he's not.
True. All right. I'm cutting us off. I'm stopping. This went longer than I expected it to, like it always does. You have more questions about sports, you know how to get in touch with us. We'll always chop it up with you. Let us know. We'll be back next week to talk more of this. We'll continue the conversation. But my man Robert is here. Robert likes to get a little nerdy, which I absolutely love because I'm a closet. I'm a nerd. Pinky can get nerdy too. We haven't gotten nerdy in a while. I finally finished Ahsoka. I know you're a big Star Wars guy. I think we need to have a conversation before we get off the airwaves tonight and dive into this a little bit. And people are
developments.
Stay with us. Yes. So hit me, my guy. Where are you at? What are your thoughts? Let's get going.
Number 1, Balin Skull. Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. Good God, I am so distraught by that. That hurts me in my soul.
That looked like it was going to be a very interesting story arc.
It's still happening. Potentially.
Well,
so
it's going to be a different now.
It's going to be a different situation, and that really
well played character.
But his character and the implications of where this is going are huge. I'm not sure if you have seen the Clone Wars series at all in any form.
Oh yeah.
So with the Gods of Mortis coming into play, that is tremendous. And
yeah, I'm
a lot.
I'm a bit taken back by that. Where is he going with that? What is he looking to do with that? Because if you watch Clone Wars, as we know, those gods are gone. What's really there still? What are we looking at?
It still has been continuously referenced throughout. So like in Rebels, you got references there. And I'm very intrigued with where this is going. Because there was, with Dave Filoni having been promoted now, and things, he's done a lot of interviews lately where he's basically saying that this next film we're getting is not going to be as, black and white. This is the Empire. This is the Rebels. This is going to be a whole culmination of several things that are finally coming to fruition, which I've been waiting for for so long.
Heck yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Side note, and I know you'll probably get into this, but don't lose your train of thought. But side note, this also really helps set up the possibility of, and screw you, I don't care if you like them. They were all awful as far as the universe is concerned. Basically erasing from memory these latest 3 films.
To as an extent, yes. Which is where I'm excited where this is treading is they're doing it in a way where it is still paying homage to the original trilogy by Timothy Zahn with Heir to the Empire, with all of the Empire factions, the Shadow Legion. You're now getting these other stories that people are like, this has been here. And now with Thrawn coming into the picture now and Mikkelsen pulling it in there. He already played great in the Rebels, but to see him live action and his army, by far, that is my second favorite Stormtrooper iteration. Those are badass. When I was watching with my friends in there, because as you see, I've Mandalorian helmets and things. They're like, you need a Stormtrooper Thrawn helmet. I'm like, yeah. As soon as that is available, yes.
You go get the babyface McGee head leader Stormtrooper, because that was awesome. The fact that they mixed it up like that, I was like,
with the callback to the grease. Oh yeah, I was like, yes. Yeah. We're getting some good stories with that. And honestly, out of everything that happened in Ahsoka, I mean, of course you have the bigger, Hayden Christensen coming back which again, finally, after close to 20 years paying off, seeing Anakin with a red lightsaber.
Yes.
Which they put in all of the promo art for Revenge of the Sith. You never got it on screen without his suit. And I'm like, just once, just please, one time. That would be it. We got it with this, and that was so satisfying. But really for me, it was honestly the Dathomirian Night Sisters. That really for me was by far the underrated storyline of the whole thing, just because the Night Sisters have always been a pivotal point in Star Wars lore, and to have gone not just from Clone Wars to now Rebels to now Ahsoka, to have that brought full circle has been great.
Absolutely.
Because now Dathomir is here in live action. So what is that going to bring us? Because that is heavy. And
it ties in the episodes 1, 2, and 3 as well, with Maul and that faction of the males on Dathomir. You can now tie all that back into the actual lore and give that true backstory of what that's all about and where that came from. And you're just the
implications.
Yes, absolutely. And all the what's the word I'm looking for? The layers of the world that had already been there, like you were talking about already, that had already been built in, that was getting ignored, and people were trying to tell these new stupid stories that didn't have anything to do with the actual Star Wars universe. There was already stuff there for you to be telling and going into. You didn't need to make up some new thing that had nonsense tied to it.
Exactly. What's
Question,
up,
guys? Are we going to get a Jon Favreau directed Star Wars movie? Is that
so? Jon Favreau at this point is to Dave Filoni what Dave Filoni was to George Lucas.
Yes.
So my prediction going forward is Jon Favreau is going to maintain the story and will produce the movie coming to tie all of this in together. But Dave Filoni will be the one to helmet and direct it. Simply for the fact that this is his story that's been told.
Filoni a director? I didn't know he was a director.
Yes, Filoni's been, so he was the creative mind behind Ahsoka, and he has selected the other directors and producers for Ahsoka. So because he was the only one to tell the story.
Yeah, Filoni is basically the creative mind behind the Clone Wars animated series. For the most part, he's the reason that was so successful. Am I wrong there, Robert? Is that fairly accurate?
No, so exactly. He basically was under the tutelage with George Lucas, and basically anything he took to Lucas was either approved or declined.
Yes.
Period.
Yes. And then Lucas would give him a reason why, because of how it did or did not fit within his historical ideals of the Star Wars universe. And then Filoni would weave it into his own feelings for the universe to make it his own, and they would collaborate and work. But he basically did Clone Wars and created Ahsoka. And he went to, I was actually just watching some of this today, went to Lucas about some ideas for this and said, hey, we can do, this Jedi with this youngling becoming a Padawan and kind of tie this into Clone Wars with Obi-Wan and everybody and Anakin. And Lucas said, no, that's Anakin's Padawan. So Filoni created it, but Lucas told him that was going to be Anakin's Padawan. And Filoni was like, Anakin doesn't have a Padawan. And Lucas said, that's Anakin's Padawan. So it was almost like this idea of Lucas already knew that Anakin had a Padawan. He had just never fleshed out that story yet for himself. And when Filoni brought him Ahsoka, it was almost like, oh, there it is. You've fleshed it out for me. Now let's tell the story.
Which for the longest time, I mean, everyone hated on Ahsoka, and at one point was set to be killed off in Clone Wars, but then they decided to forego that.
Always loved Ahsoka.
For me, initially, I thought she was really like to the point of annoying, because I was like, all right, I'm not here for that. I'm here to see like where Anakin's story is going. But I'm like, okay, you know what? Hindsight 2020, this is what's making him into what he becomes, because he can't forego that attachment, leading him into the downfall of becoming Vader.
Well, let's be honest. You could argue and you could write an entire thesis PhD paper on how it is actually Ahsoka's fault that Anakin becomes Darth Vader.
To a degree.
Because if she decides to stay with the Jedi Order, to stay with Anakin, she isn't away from him in those key moments where he's making decisions such that it turns him the way it does. Now, does that necessarily happen? No. But you could argue that her being there in those moments, or at least in the vicinity, rather than off-world or out of sight, out of mind, Anakin may not have gone down the path that he ended up going down. Her leaving the Order and leaving him on his own is part of the reason why he felt the way he did when those decisions came.
But at the same time, Ahsoka had made those decisions because of Anakin's teachings, to question everything, and having
absolutely
happen. Basically, it was at that point the pot calling the kettle black, because Ahsoka was like, dude, some stuff's happening and you need to make a decision.
You're absolutely right. And Anakin was trying to get her to say, stick with me and change will happen. Like, I feel it. Change is coming. Mm-hmm. He just didn't understand the change that was coming.
Completely.
Right? So that's what I think is so great about that character and that story arc through all of Clone Wars is, and I love the way they showed it in Ahsoka, in the let's call it the purgatory scene, where you saw that true love and bond between them, and Anakin really saying, I still have a lesson I need you to learn, because you came up in a time, unfortunately, where I wasn't able to be the master I'd hoped to be for you. But I gave you everything you needed to excel in those situations, in those times. And you see her kind of get that after the fact when she's talking with Sabine, and she says, basically saying that, Anakin was the best master possible. And you could tell how she was thinking Anakin was. What he became was awful. But Anakin himself was a great master.
Yes, and that's why I think that scene alone does so much in volumes, not just for Anakin and Darth Vader's arc, if you will, because at that point, again, really peeling back layers here, is giving him the opportunity to save the ones that he cares about from dying, which is what exactly he did for Ahsoka, saying you can choose this, or you can rise above this, which for me meant worlds, because that now transitioned to where now we're about to go figure out this quest with the gods of Mortis in the galaxy far, far away, while now we're dealing with Thrawn coming back to the main galaxy to now fight the rebellion.
Well, and then think about this, and I don't know if you thought about this yet or not, but where we're at in Ahsoka, Vader's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do see that Force ghost of Anakin at the end, that's the way, by all accounts, he is now portrayed.
Spoiler alert.
Man.
Look, I don't care
this whole
anymore.
Thing's been spoilers.
I just finished Ahsoka, and it's been out for how long now? I don't give a shit. I need to talk about this with my guy here. You see that, and it makes me go, oh, we're about to see even more growth from Ahsoka, because she's about to learn about something that she was unaware of, which then connects her back to Yoda and Obi and Qui-Gon and all of that lineage in a different way for her to continue her training, to then go to Sabine and then Jason. Are we moving in that direction?
So my theory there is, because now we're in two separate worlds. So Ahsoka is about to deal with Morai again, because remember, she was killed and brought back to life by the sister. So that whole thing, I feel, is like going to be in its own segue.
Well, and side note, Balin, has no idea that Ahsoka was there when the Mordai gods ended, and she is, for lack of a better way of talking about it, the supreme authority on them at this point in time, because she watched her master Anakin decide not to rule the universe, basically.
Yes.
So he has no idea what he's dealing with, and he thinks he knows more than everybody else. Like, oh, God.
That whole thing is going to be, I can't wait for that. With Jason, I have a feeling with what's going to happen with that now is we're going to get Jason being trained under Ezra for what's to come.
Yes.
Because Ezra's back now, because he's there with Hera, so that whole thing is getting figured out.
And that would be his dad training Ezra, Ezra training him, continuing Ezra's own training within the Force. Now he's back home. Okay.
Yes. So
I also, oh God, there's so many things. This is why the 3 newest movies drive me bonkers.
They make no sense.
You keep doing this stuff, and it doesn't have to be the Skywalker saga anymore, but you could still be including the Skywalkers. Because Luke could have still been there to help train Ezra, for Ezra to train Jason, and be within,
which takes the whole Thrawn theory to a whole new level. Yep. So when you really watch that scene and really pick it apart, he's like, is there only one starship? My theory is because Thrawn was in the know. He has to know about Luke.
I fully agree because he was one of maybe 3 people that knew Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker.
Yes. So that's why I'm like,
because that doesn't come out until. When does that come out that it's found out that Leia and Luke are the children of Vader? It was a little while after, and it came out through the Senate and things of that nature, and it caused Leia to have to that was the story they used for the 3 new movies.
Pretty much, because so what their driving force was that when it came to fruition in 6 when Vader finally understood it.
Yeah.
And then when Leia still maintained the Organa name, but kept it hidden from their other records, so that way it wouldn't come out. But at the end of the day, she had to face it, which is where the new movies address. And I'm like, okay, now we're getting.
Yeah.
But
they didn't do a good job of explaining those situations to understand, and like those reactions wouldn't have been the way they were given how that all went down, what happened, Vader basically killing the Emperor and redeeming himself. And so that the way they told that was bad, but you could still use all that with Ezra, Jason, Luke. I mean, Grogu is still sitting out here now.
But he stopped his training, so that's a whole other situation.
Right. But I just mean, like, the way this world can continue to evolve and expand with what's already out there, it was so pointless to do 3 new movies and try to tell this whole new story when you literally could have naturally told the story to get away from the Skywalkers using the Skywalkers.
Like, we could have done the Mandalorian and Boba Fett shows and stuff like that and then made 3 movies. That would have been fine. Like,
sure.
We got Rogue One and Solo in between. Like, I'm good. I mean, Solo is hated on more than what I would appreciate, but because I think Solo is
I like
excellent.
Solo. Yeah.
But for me, like, again, I didn't need Rey. I didn't need that stuff because it didn't serve a purpose, at least for me, for the universe. It basically took the universe and crumpled it up.
I agree, and the reason I agree with that is my biggest thing is Rey acts like she's never heard of Jedi, but she's heard of Jedi, and then magically has the powers because she just thinks she has the powers.
And now she's an ultimate badass.
Yeah. But never, like, you don't
it took
just
Anakin years to figure that out. And he
you don't
brings
just
down a
learn how to use
starship.
You don't just learn how to use the Force, but nobody's ever shown it to you. You've never seen it. You've never talked to anybody about it.
Right? Like you can't just. It's here. So, that don't work that way. And then, even if you are being trained by Leia at the end of it, like, no.
So it just wasn't well thought out, unfortunately. But now that it appears Kathleen Kennedy isn't making the decisions, and they've allowed people who understand the universe to make those decisions. And one thing I heard Filoni say about Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka is not just that she took the role seriously and learned the character, but that she cared about the universe and the part that Ahsoka played within that universe as a whole. And that made it so much more believable for her to become the character and tell the story.
Exactly. And that's why, like, there are some of these other people that are like, oh, I'm going to portray this person, but I'm going to do my own thing. Like, no, there's a person written for this that already we don't need your take on it. We just need this character to do what this character is meant to do. I don't care what you feel about it. This is how this character is supposed to be.
So now here's the ultimate question, Robert. At this point, are we at a place where you continue to tell stories via basically Disney Plus and short seasons, or do you take these short seasons and the stories that are starting to intertwine together and do kind of like Marvel did, where then you tie all that together in a movie, in one big epic movie, and then almost start over with more stories to tie in and continue to just kind of build this along? Or do you, I guess there's 2 other options. Do that, take the universe and go grab some of the old stuff and kind of build from there into the future and continue to evolve the universe and tell all the stories of how we got to where we are and what that looked like before and things of that nature? Or do you take the stuff that's been out there, grab some of those characters, introduce your own, and continue to tell new stories? None of it, all of it, some of it. What would you prefer to see?
So what they're going to do, at least with what I'm envisioning with where this is going, is they're going to take everything. Because what they're going to do right now is at least with what Filoni has put in place, is we're still going to get another few seasons of things going on. And then all at once, we're going to get a huge epic to wrap it all up with a pretty bow, which is, for me, is going to be perfect, because you're going to still get the Shadow Legion being built into the behind the scenes and things like that, which they did like with Hydra for the Marvel situation, which was perfect. And as long as they do it tastefully, like they have been with this Moff Gideon storyline with the most recent season of Mandalorian, then we're able to finally take that Shadow Legion and move it into the big screen to say, okay, these people are established and a force to be reckoned with. Now our people are coming in to finally go toe-to-toe to fight the universe. Because, I mean, unfortunately, at least, yes, it's rewriting it in some cases. Eventually, this culmination of events is going to lead into the creation of the First Order and the split of the New Republic.
Right.
So where that's going is very intriguing.
Would you say it's in Disney's best interest at this time? Because this is how I feel. Burn down any other Disney projects you have going. Do not allow them to continue. I don't care how far along in production they are. Burn them all to the ground, and you now put all your Star Wars eggs into the Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau basket, and you allow them to tell the stories and this arc in any shape, way, and form they choose.
I don't think so, because then you're going to put yourself into a box like you did with Harry Potter.
So this is why I think it would be a good idea, because I don't think Filoni and Favreau would oversaturate the product at this point, which I feel like it's on the verge of doing. Because of those past three movies. And what Favreau and Filoni have done is basically done nothing but triage to the entire universe and fan base since those movies to try and build back the idea that this is actually a franchise worthy of continuing to tell the stories in.
So on two accounts there, I disagree. Number one, on the Star Wars side of it, yes, you're getting all of this great fan service and whatnot with The Mandalorian, Thrawn coming, Ahsoka, the Gods of Mortis, all of that. I'm geeked about it. It's great. I've been growing up with this story since it's been told. That being said, that's only going to carry you for so long, because now you're going to have worlds collide at some point. What I'm finding to be beneficial to not having it all the eggs in a basket with the Dave Filoni universe is you're getting other inklings of other stories. Number one being Andor. By far, I mean, if you were to put that up against any series, any Star Wars series, and even Marvel, Andor, I would say would take the cake, because to a degree it was original. It took a single character that was developed over almost 7-8 years ago and took his story and really expanded upon it. And then to have it end the way that it did, I'm not going to spoil it for Pinky, but really sets that tone of you can tell that story in different ways and still get to the same point, but it's not the same people.
I love that thought process. So you have allowed me to change my thought a little bit here. I would love to see Filoni and Favreau head everything up, and I would actually throw in Bryce Dallas Howard in there as well, because I loved what she did with her opportunities. Let the three of them go to town on the stories they want to tell and the way that they want to tell it. And then allow them those three, or Filoni and Favreau, if you want them to be the ultimate two, because they'll always listen to Lucas, right? They're always going to listen to George.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to decide who then has the opportunities to tell other stories in what fashion, because they'll at least make sure that those other stories are told within the feeling of Star Wars, which I feel like was really lost with these last three movies, because J.J. Abrams basically just tried to rehash A New Hope. And then you had...
he tried to Star Trek it.
Right. And then you had, the second movie, which I can appreciate from Rian Johnson, trying to do something new in the spirit of Star Wars and tell an original story within a story that's already there. It was just too much out of the box for the universe itself and didn't quite align with some of the character choices that had already been established.
Exactly.
But at least he tried something where Abrams just rehashed it. And
right.
Then you come back with a third movie and everything's already screwed up so much anyways that it was just
going to give us bullshit reasons.
Yeah. So allowing Abrams to then bring his sense of style and thought process into Star Wars, they didn't mesh. They didn't work together, and they never were going to.
Mm-mm.
So they need somebody who's going to understand what Star Wars truly is, to give somebody the freedom to go tell their own brand new story, but have the vision and the thought process to say, this is how you need to do it in a way that stays Star Wars. Does that make sense?
Yep, exactly. Which is why I'm really looking forward to the two upcoming projects, the Sith Acolyte and the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Because the Acolyte's going to be taking us back like 500 years pre-Phantom Menace.
That's going to be super cool.
And then the Skeleton Crew, I can't remember when that's supposed to take place, but with Jude Law coming in, I'm excited to get a different story not centered around Jedi, which has been one of the biggest failing points in Star Wars until recently with The Mandalorian and Andor coming, because it's not Jedi-based, it's not Sith-based, this is what else is happening in this universe. It's not about these two cultures. It is what is happening now. In
Fully
Tatooine,
agree.
wherever.
Because I think we talked about this last time we had an opportunity to chat it up. We're talking about a universe, a galaxy of trillions of people, and there's 3,000 Jedi total before Anakin turns to Darth Vader and burns everything to the ground. So Star Wars makes it seem like, if you don't know the universe very well, that Jedi are everywhere and everybody knows about them and sees them on a daily basis. Whereas to 99.9% of the universe, Jedi are folklore. It's magic. They don't even know that it's real. They just think it's some bedtime story that their parents are telling them. So there is all this other rich history within this universe that you could fully explore and go down and never lose a beat and not even think twice that you didn't have a lightsaber in it.
Exactly.
Love it.
So, yep, I'm looking forward to it. It's got a lot of good things going forward with the strikes and things like that. I'm intrigued to see what all is going to be affected by it, because I know Skeleton Crew was set to come out next year. So I don't know how that'll get pushed, but
yeah,
I'm ready for some more Star Wars coming.
Well, and how do we continue this story now? I mean, Ahsoka season 2, what are we looking at? How are we going to do that? Because like you had mentioned, where Thrawn was in position before Ezra made the bold move to take him with him with the space whales and the time,
the Purgle,
the warp jump, we would have seen Thrawn and TIE fighters dominating rather than what is his stupid name? The Death Star and Grand Admiral
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Grand Moff Tarkin, thank you. Those two projects were competing with each other by all accounts. And Ezra and all of those guys took out that TIE fighter situation on Lothal that was being built up. And then you had mentioned Moff Gideon, and he was very loyal to Thrawn. And he was looking at, by all accounts, building up a stockade of similar to what you saw in Marvel, where they were stealing all the superheroes' powers to make one special superhero. Well, Thrawn comes back. He's obviously got this underground network. How much of that knowledge is available to him that Moff Gideon had? Was it all on Mandalore? And so Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians destroyed it or controlled all of it now, so it's not getting out? Where do these scenarios start playing out now with Thrawn being back? And what storylines those unfold just in our normal world, let alone like you talked about with the Ahsoka and the complete other galaxy. And oh man, I'm just so stoked.
Exactly, which is why he is called the heir to the Empire. They're like, there is so much to be told with this, and I'm ready.
Well, and Thrawn is just such a, I mean, look.
So calculated and cold.
Yes.
He's a badass.
If you didn't watch Rebels, first of all, if you didn't watch Clone Wars, you need to go watch that first.
Yeah.
Like, you need to.
It's necessary to watch
Rebels,
now.
Rebels did come out on, like, Disney XD. Like, it really was marketed at the time as a very kid-friendly Star Wars.
It was the original
cartoon.
animation, how it was supposed to be.
Yep, and
not bad, but
I think Disney at the time and Star Wars as a whole did themselves a disservice to market Rebels the way they did, because Rebels actually might be the best storytelling in all of the Star Wars universe.
The Darth Maul Obi-Wan scene by far, top tier Star Wars,
insane. So, and Thrawn is for a kid show, he is portrayed as one of the most evil villains I've ever watched or read or encountered in all of cinema, not just kids cinema, all of cinema. Because if you truly watch what he is in Rebels, like you said, the way he's calculated, the way he doesn't show any emotion or feeling towards the decisions he's making, the way when he was stealing the art from cultures because he knew what that art meant to that exactly. So to see how then he will be portrayed, like you said, heir of the Empire, Thrawn's story is crazy good, crazy cool, amazing character, and what he could do coming back. You know there's going to be a network in place that nobody else is aware of.
Exactly.
And like Hera was talking about, you know, Leia's aware of it. They understand that there's this underlayer bubbling that if it's not taken care of very quickly,
there's
all hell will break
big
loose.
Issues.
Right. And so this is kind of going back a little bit. This is why I think you could very easily wipe out those last three movies, because one of the key things that happens at the end of Ahsoka is you see Hera and Leia have a pact behind closed doors that you don't see on camera, but they obviously know of each other and spoke with each other and are aware of each other's plans kind of moving forward to what's next.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Thrawn's going to be here, we're not talking about Snoke. We're not talking about the Emperor coming back. You know what I mean? So,
which is like 30, 40 years from. I'm like,
yes. So it allows you to really, if Disney wants to, if Star Wars wants to, say, okay, we did those, but that's kind of like the holiday special that never aired again.
It never happened.
Right.
Which would be fine. I'd be so good with that. This is where the
story really should have gone, to truly wrap up the Skywalker saga and show you how this universe is still expanding and all the other characters involved that we're now going to look at and move on to, and this and that and the other. I think it's just such a natural progression to be able to do that.
Exactly. And that's what what I'm hoping for and pulling for with where they're going with this. There's still a lot of story to be told. I know one of the big things right now is with Dave Filoni's recent interview is a wait and see game with Balin, and to see where that's going to go. So at this point, a hopeful future, a lot of things to come. But yeah, Star Wars is going to exciting places right now, and it's great.
Love it. All right. We're over. Pinky's bored. He's out of his element. I apologize, my guy, but I love that you asked Robert to come back to geek out for a little bit. Next time we geek out, Pinky, we'll geek out on stuff that you want to be involved in as well. So
I haven't finished Ahsoka. I haven't watched Andor yet. So I am halfway through Ahsoka. So I was trying. I just didn't make it.
My bad. I didn't realize you hadn't even watched it. I know you're not the biggest Star Wars guy, though. So this as a whole doesn't necessarily get you all jazzed up.
All I know is Rosario Dawson's hot. That's all I know.
Yeah. She's been hot since Men in Black 2.
She's always hot.
She's been hot since Clerks. Was it Clerks?
Clerks 2?
Yes.
Yeah. So, we're good. Robert, always a pleasure, my guy. One of these days, I'm going to get some free time and we're going to chat it up over a beer or something.
Let me know.
Outside of this. But appreciate you. Soon, again, I'm sure we'll figure out something else to geek out on and chat it up.
I'm available. There is some geeky things going on in the world right now. So
I love it. I love it, my guy. Pinky, final thoughts?
Hey, just like we talked about last week, check in on your loved ones, check on your circle. The holidays are stressful, and sometimes folks just need a kind word or maybe need some help. Don't forget to check in.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it. To everybody else on this network, I appreciate you guys. I love you. Don't hate me. I'm just trying to give you my honest point of view when it comes to
respond
the
to
Broncos.
I got to respond to this. Billy.
I did.
It's in the name. Nonsense. The first 2 hours of sports, you had time to comment. You jumped in late. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry.
He's right. He's right, Billy. He's right. You were late. And also, like, let's just be honest about this. We're going to talk about anything we want to whenever we want to.
How it be.
So if you don't want to listen to it or watch it, you don't have to, but we hope that you still find it entertaining to an extent in some, capacity. Back to it. Binky, if you don't know, Billy is Purple Sticky from my league.
Oh, okay.
That's my good buddy. That's my good buddy, Billy. Billy! Again, this network, please don't hate me. I am a Broncos fan. I'm just trying to give you my honest assessment of where I believe things are. I'm sorry if that's not roses right now. I want to be roses. I really do. But Pinky knows I am championship or bust. So if you're not championshiping, you should be busting and building a championship, not floating in mediocrity. That drives me nuts, unfortunately. So on that note, I love being back. I might have some time off here again coming up. We'll have to see how family and health and things unfold and go from there. So if I do miss a little bit of time, I'm still around. Just got to make sure we live by what we always say, and that's family comes first and that inner circle. So Pinky's holding it down for me. I know Pinky's going to be going here in a couple weeks, and I'm going to have to hold it down for us. So we'll be okay.
I'm available if needed.
That very well might just be the fill-in right now. So we'll have to chat. We'll have to
let me know.
On that note, as always, do not ever take those moments with your loved ones, inner circle, family, friends, whoever you consider that to be, for granted. Cherish them, love them, take advantage of them, and never let them go away when you can. Appreciate all you guys. Love, support, watching, sharing, likes, quality, whatever it might be. Until next week, we're out.
Have a good one.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,